All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to the stream. Welcome if you are new here. Appreciate you guys joining me today and maybe jamming out to the intro. Not sure. Had to play some Soundgarden. Gonna have to probably cut that part out later on when the stream's wrapped up. But yeah, rest in peace, Chris Cornell. He passed away 8 years ago. Still crazy to think. But yeah, guys, welcome. We have some topics. Yeah, Chester Bennington as well. Pretty crazy. They were good friends too, which is sad. The song ending into you showing up was perfect timing. It's almost like I timed it that way. Got to keep it. Well, if I'm allowed to, I will. If they let me. I was a little bit nervous doing that because, like, I don't mind some copyright claims every now and again, you know, that I can kind of do something about. But on occasion, if you play certain music, it can just get blocked. Like, it can block your stream, which is the worst, obviously. But yeah, guys, today we are talking about Sony going all in with a next generation handheld that's going to release alongside the PlayStation 6. And we are getting more information on this, more insiders, I guess you could say, coming out and giving us information, letting us know what Sony's plans are here. We're going to be talking about Xbox a little bit because we also have some next-gen Xbox rumors, and there seems to be a little bit of conflict going on. Don't play any Eagles. Apparently, they're the worst for getting strikes. Yeah, I've heard that there's like certain bands, or I don't know if they're like the bands themselves or the labels or whatever. Like you just can't play their music. If you attempt to play anything, they'll come after you. Okay. Wow, boss is being really strange. I know you can't see it, but he's actually in the little cubby right here. Maybe you can see his back sticking out. He's in there licking the back of it or whatever. Like he's like licking the siding. You just hear it. Really weird. And Luna's here too. I noticed Luna's been getting more comfortable. Okay. We're going to have another situation going down at some point between these two cats. As long as we're still getting a next-gen PS6 console, I'm good. We are, yeah. Obviously, they're doing a regular home console, but it seems like Sony's doing something a little bit different this time, or maybe a lot different. Bro's tweaking already. Yes, he is. Okay, don't fight. It's too early to be fighting. Oh, boy. Whoa. Bro, how did you even... Holy... You just appeared out of nowhere. You good, man? Everything chill? I think I hyped Boss up with that song. Lux with a super chat says, Sony's sort of taking inspiration from both Microsoft and Nintendo. Instead of a 2-in-1 hybrid, they do 2 SKUs like Microsoft with the Series X and S. But this time, it's a console and a handheld. That's exactly what I was thinking, Lux. Stop that. That's exactly what I was thinking. How, like, it seems like Sony is basically looking at both. I don't know if I want to use the term competitors, but, you know, we'll just go with that. You know, they're looking at both competitors and they're like, okay, is there anything Nintendo's doing that maybe we should do? A handheld? Okay, we'll do that. What about Microsoft? Is there anything they're doing that we should maybe do? And they're thinking maybe we should launch both of these devices, you know, at the same time. And that's, I think, the really interesting part about the handheld conversation, yet inspiration in quotes. That's the interesting part, I think, about the handheld, and that it's going to be a next generation handheld that ships alongside the PlayStation 6, which means it's basically going to be PlayStation's version of a Series S in a way. Although it might not be. Like, the question is, will developers be required to have their games run on that portable device? That's the real question. Because if Sony mandates it and says your game has to work on the PlayStation 6 and this PlayStation handheld, or you're not allowed to publish your game on the PlayStation Store. If they do it that way, then no, that's the thing. I said that before. The PS5 will be the Series S to the PlayStation 6. Actually, it's probably going to be this handheld, and the PS5 is going to be in between. So I think the way it's going to work here, when it's all said and done, as we get closer to the next generation, is on the high end, you're going to have the PlayStation 6, and then in the middle, you're going to have the PS5, and then below the PS5, you're going to have this new dedicated PlayStation Portable. Because from what we understand, this PlayStation Portable, its performance is going to be somewhere between a PS5 and an Xbox Series S. So whatever that looks like, that's essentially what we can expect with this handheld. And it's going to be expensive. It's not going to be cheap. This is not going to be a PlayStation Portal situation. It's going to be really interesting to see how Sony handles this rollout. No way they hold back the PlayStation 6 by forcing games to run on their new handheld. I mean, yeah, I want to say it's probably going to be optional, but you also have to wonder, like, how that's going to impact sales and adoption rate. Like, what I think Sony will be able to do is at least offer remote play. So it's like, okay, listen, if we can't tell you that every single game's going to run natively, that we might not be able to promise that, we can promise that you can play every game as long as you have an internet connection, right? Kind of like what they're doing with the Portal. Nothing is held back. Sony is at the helm. 10K more shovelware games than the handheld. For the handheld with trophies? Absolutely. The Series S is just a cheaper console. It's not a handheld. Yeah, but that's why I'm saying, like, the only thing that was ultimately problematic for the Xbox Series S was the fact that there was a mandate. Like, if you want to put a game on the Xbox storefront and sell a game on the Xbox store, it needs to be compatible with the Series S. It needs to run on the Series S, and that was the mandate. That's why I find it interesting, like, the fact that this handheld is apparently going to launch with the PlayStation 6. It's like, how is Sony going to handle that one? Are they going to say it's optional? Are they going to try to make it super easy? And, they'll be able to scale down. I don't know. The mandate wasn't the issue. It's the parity. Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, that's a better way to put it, actually. The parity. Yeah, Microsoft basically bent the rules from Larian with Baldur's Gate 3. Michael Lynch, you're saying you and the missus should come to Austin for Formula One. It's incredible. I'll be your Uber driver. I appreciate that, Michael. I do, but yeah, no, that's not going to happen. Just going to be upfront with you, Michael. Never going to happen. But if I ever do find myself in Austin, I'll specifically request you as my Uber driver. Lux with another super chat says, Sony looked at Nintendo and said, why give both in one device when our diehard fans will fork out $1,000 plus to buy both? I mean, that's the most cynical way to look at it, Lux. That's definitely the most cynical way to look at it. I mean, I would prefer it this way. Truthfully. Like, could you imagine if Sony came out with the PlayStation 6 and it's like, it's a more powerful Switch? Like, that's what it is. You can, it's a hybrid. I'll be honest, I think PlayStation fans would lose their minds. I mean, I would. I'd be like, what did you do? Be like, Sony, how could you do this? I would, be very disappointed and underwhelmed. Right? So, as cynical as it does sound, where it's like, we want them to pay for both. I mean, I think it's how they should handle it, because the alternative option is don't do a handheld at all. And I really feel like at this point in time, everybody's going to have some kind of handheld offering. And you already found some success with the PlayStation Portal. I think this is where you got to go. But yeah, I mean, dude, if you think about it, the PlayStation 6, how much is that going to be? $600? More than $600? And this dedicated handheld is going to be very powerful. $500? If you want the complete package, $1,200? Ooh, that's going to be tough. Jerry Gamer with the super chat says, will they do a showcase to cover Bungie's crap? Just putting it lightly. I'll tell you right now, I don't know what to think. I really don't. I mean, it's the 18th of May, and we've had zero rumors. Nothing. There's nothing that says anything about a state of play, about a showcase. However, June is also a very likely month for Sony to do something. The situation that's going on with Bungie, if Sony doesn't bring the hammer down at this point, then they deserve what they get with Bungie. I don't know how else to put it, where it's like Bungie is out of control and they're spiraling and they don't know what they're doing. And they are now causing actual legal trouble for Sony potentially. The time for Sony to take the wheel and completely take over the ship is now. If anything for Bungie's sake. Like, they don't know what they're doing. And so, the idea of them putting on a showcase to kind of distract from that, I don't think they're going to do it for that reason. This is something they would have had to plan out. Stop. You think it's blown out of proportion? I don't think it is. Not with Bungie. The Bungie situation, I don't want to be the person that just keeps focusing on it because, it's something that's not going to go away anytime soon. It's just, I mean, God, man, Sony must actually be cursed with like live service games, because when you look at what happened with Concord, it's like something like that is supposed to be an anomaly. Like, Concord is the perfect storm of just like, so what's the worst that could happen? And it's like, oh, okay, well, we just experienced it. And you think from that point forward, okay, that's an anomaly. It's a one-time thing. That can't happen again. Bro, as of right now, what's happening with Bungie and Marathon, especially with the plagiarism, it's like, okay, apparently it's going to happen again under different circumstances. Because that's what it's looking like. I'm not trying to be hyperbolic. I'm not trying to dogpile. I'm not trying to, parrot what other people are saying. But all I really can do is just give my honest evaluation. And what I see right now with Bungie and with Marathon, Sony has to do something drastic. And even putting aside my past thoughts on Bungie, this is like, something's got to happen. If Sony just lets them basically just continue down this path, then I will be convinced that Sony actually wants Bungie to just completely dissolve. Because it's insane. It's actually insane, and it's unacceptable. There's a lot of other things that right now I think PlayStation is doing pretty well, if not very well. But this Bungie situation is like it's turning into a black mark, man. It's not good. And we got Michael Lynch with 2 more super chats. Thank you guys for the super chats. You're saying no rumors means nothing on this subject. Sony is known for announcing a state of play or showcase a week or even a day or two beforehand. And you say below that, I mean, it was already put out there that PlayStation is trying to decide whether to do a state of play or a showcase this year. That's true. And that's kind of the thing that I keep holding on to. Like, I'm clinging on to that, holding on to hope. And yeah, I mean, it is certainly plausible, Michael, that I've become overly reliant on certain insiders to inform us that there's a state of play coming or that there's a showcase coming. And just because we get a year, maybe this is a bit of hopium, but we get a year where there is no rumor, there is no leak. it doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to happen. It could just simply mean that it didn't leak. And so the most important thing I think you highlight here is the fact that Sony is, by this point, very well known for announcing these shows a day ahead of time. Not necessarily showcases. Showcases, they give a bit more leeway, but with State of Plays, they announce it like 24 hours in advance. So, there is a chance. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys to hold on to hope, but, or expect it, but there is a chance that, next week, Sony's just like, here you go. There's a State of Play tomorrow. Tune in. There's a chance next week we could get a rumor could come out of nowhere from a reliable source saying, yeah, there's going to be a showcase for PlayStation next week. Wes, you're cooking all the dumplings? Okay. State of Play for what? I mean, that's the question. That's the question, right? What do they have to show? I'm ready. Whatever it is, I'll be ready. Lux with another super chat says, Microsoft was blamed for Starfield and Redfall. Sony 100% is at fault for this shit show with Bungie. They saw all their games in progress and bought them. Oh, I agree. The problem here, though, is that if we collectively say, Sony, this is your fault, sure. You own them. You bought them. You own them. This is your problem now. The problem, though, still falls on Sony with what I'm about to say, but it's that, well, what if Sony can't do anything? Like legally? What if Sony were to try to interfere, it breaks a contract, and in breaking that contract, it allows Bungie to, I don't know, do something crazy. I'm not saying that doesn't mean the blame shouldn't fall on Sony. It should still fall on Sony, because if that's the situation they're in, where it's like you actually signed a contract when buying these guys that basically says you can't do anything for 2 or 3 years, no matter what happens, like that's stupid. That would just. I'm telling you now, man. If there's a reason why Kenichiro Yoshida. We talk about Jim Ryan retiring and being like, I'm out. There's a reason why Kenichiro Yoshida was replaced as Sony CEO. And it's because, yeah, man, he, at the end of the day, an acquisition like Bungie, sure, that's on Jim Ryan, but it also is on Kenichiro Yoshida, where it's like, he has to approve that. He's the one that ultimately has to decide. Now, granted, I do place more blame on Jim Ryan and the leadership at PlayStation, because they're the ones that are supposed to know gaming. I kind of can understand why the CEO of Sony is just like, well, Bungie seems good and everybody's telling me they're good, so okay, I get that. But it's just so obvious that Sony should not have made this purchase, man, and it's truly a thorn in their side now. It is. I mean, you could look at Destiny 2 and the fact that that's seemingly holding up well enough for now. And so there is some layer of positivity. But I think, look, man, I know that this is going to sound extreme. I know it's going to sound extreme, and I know it sounds brutal, but I have to just be honest in that, like, I think Sony just needs to pull the plug on Marathon. And they need to maybe, again, like, I don't want to see people lose their jobs, but they got to maybe shrink down Bungie, and you're just Destiny now. You're going to make Destiny 3, and that's what you're going to do. You're the Destiny guys. You've been the Destiny guys, you're going to stay the Destiny guys, and that's it. Corey, what's up, man? That's what I think. They got to pull the plug. If that's how they look at $3 billion transactions, they should all be fired. Well, Sony did clean house, I'll tell you. Because I'm like, here's the thing. I'm trying to think, if I'm Sony, if I'm Bungie, looking at what's happening right now, what do I think we could do to turn the ship around? To, let's delay it for a year, and let's do a checklist of things that are going to turn it. You're not. You're not. You're not. I'm just being brutally honest. Where it's like it's over, guys. Like you've been working on this game for like 5 or 6 years. Listen, that I put this tweet out yesterday, and it's one that it perfectly, in my opinion, perfectly encapsulates the situation with Marathon specifically, where we went within a matter of weeks, and this is the crazy part. Within weeks, bro, we went from Bungie and Sony actually capturing people, a lot of people capturing their interest and saying, oh, there's a new Bungie game and it's a different type of game from Bungie. Okay, let's go check it out. This could be good. They went from that to then they show the game and they put out an alpha and it immediately becomes a 50-50 toss-up where half the people, honestly, it's probably more like a 60-40 toss-up or even 70-30 where like most people are like, okay, not what I thought it was going to be, not interested in it, I'm going to pass. Or most of them being like, this doesn't look good, I don't like it, no thank you. To now, the remaining people being like, maybe it'll be good, they just need to delay it and polish it or make some changes. To then the plagiarism scandal occurs, to now people are actively rooting for this game to die and fail. This all happened in a matter of like weeks, like a month and a half, basically. It's like at some point we have to ask ourselves, like, is Bungie trying to sabotage themselves? Because this is nuts. I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like it. And I don't know how you can see something like that unravel and unfold so rapidly, so intensely, in such a short period of time. Josh Z with the super chat says, I discovered yesterday that I am a nihilistic person according to the questions I answered at the beginning of Dragon Quest III. Not gonna lie, I'm a little shook. Yeah. Josh, I've been there, bro. That when you eventually realize that nihilism is likely at the center of a lot of your personality or your beliefs, right? Gotta be, it's a slippery slope, nihilism. But yeah, I mean, I think nihilistic philosophy, I try to avoid it. I try to avoid the nihilistic approach because it's just like, there's no fun in it. You know what I mean? Like, even if nothing does matter, who cares? Enjoy what you can. Try to enjoy yourself, Josh, as best you can. That's all you can do, right? Josh is shook, bro. Lux, you're saying if Sony pulls the plug on Marathon, they've already said what they expect losses next quarter. This would add to it. Then cost goes up, prices go up. Yeah, I mean, Sony's trying to do everything in their power to not... Because you're right, they did announce they're going to lose a certain amount of money due to tariffs. Sony as a whole, not just from PlayStation. But they're doing everything in their power to like mitigate that. And yeah, Bungie, their big live service game, like the one that's supposed to be the big hitter, basically finding itself in the grinder. Yeah, dude, I don't know. It seems like Sony is still going to be paying for these decisions that were made years ago by people who are no longer there. And you know, man, you know what it takes me back to? It takes me back to the day we learned about Sean Layden basically being fired from Sony, just like being escorted out of the building. Sony announced it in a tweet, bro. Like, thanks, Sean, peace. And immediately after that, we heard about Jim Ryan. And Corey the Legend Landiga comes in, and he wants to get the member train going today. He drops 5 membership gifts on you guys. We all know who it's for. It's for this guy. No, it's not time yet. It's not time yet. Just calm down. It's not time. Guys, we'll see if we can get to 25 members today. We did it yesterday. We'll see if we can do it again today. We'll do a repeat, and we'll feed the beast.
I'm no hero. Never was. Never will be.
Boss recognizes that soundbite, bro. I think he recognizes your name, Corey, at this point. And Mini Tom Official comes in and drops another 5 memberships on you guys. Mini Tom's like, let's keep it going. We need a full-blown member train. We got to get to the 25. I know that sounds like a scream of agony and pain and suffering, but it's actually it's an enthusiastic scream. Like, yes, let's get to, it's a nihilistic scream, Josh. Let's get to 25. If you got gifted a membership, by the way, we will be doing a members lounge. We're either going to do it tomorrow or on Tuesday. So be on the lookout for that. I'm going to add that to the counter. So we're now sitting at 10, making some good progress. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. You know what's happening. The next super chat we have here is Angry Well Watcher. He says, time for Naughty Dog to do an internal review of Marathon. LOL. I don't want to talk about it. I can't talk about it, Angry Well Watcher. Don't make me go back. Emmanuel with a super chat says, quick question, is Sony making an actual console and a handheld for the PS6? I'm confused. So Emmanuel, what Sony's going to be doing is they're going to have a regular console, PlayStation 6. It's going to be a traditional home console, just like the PS5, just like the PS4, etc. And then they're going to have a separate device, which will be a standalone handheld that will be a premium handheld. It's probably going to be $500-$600. And it will essentially be, well, I don't want to call it a portable PlayStation 6, but it's going to be between a PS5 and a Series S in terms of capability and power. So it will be the next true iteration of the PlayStation Portable. It will be the successor to the Vita, essentially. And, when that happens, we're going to be able to decide, do you want to buy the home console? Do you want to buy the PlayStation 6? Would you rather buy the PlayStation Portable? Do you want both? But yeah, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be a premium handheld. No doubt about that. Yeah, I'm thinking about trying to get back into Helldivers 2, Jay Shako. I'm thinking about it. It's been a while, though, Like, I feel like I'm going to suck at it now. So, Emmanuel, if you're confused as to whether or not, like, Sony's going to be doing just a regular, traditional home console with the PlayStation 6, they are. No need to be confused. That's absolutely what they're doing. They're just going to offer another handheld, too. Think of it more along the lines of, during the PS4 generation when Sony offered the Vita, The big difference, though, I will say, is that there's not going to be exclusive games for this handheld. Like, there are not going to be games made just to run on the handheld. Every game that can run on the handheld is also going to be on the PlayStation 6. Boss, it's too early yet. We still need 15 more memberships, bro. Okay? Like, I can't have you over here biting the mic. Hang tight. Lux with another super chat says, dedicated generations are over. The PlayStation 6 will just have better versions of games that will still launch on the PS5 and the handheld. This way, Sony gets their MAU data. I am actually in agreement. I do think that's something that PlayStation players, especially the really hardcore PlayStation players or the enthusiasts or whatever, something they need to prepare for is that the next generation of PlayStation is going to be very different in the sense that, well, kind of like what you're saying here, Lux, the upper limit has been reached. We are going to see Sony push aggressively to get people to buy the PlayStation 6, but the PS5 is going to be essential and vital to the next generation. We look at the PlayStation 4 and how Sony very much cared about the PlayStation 4 this generation. They've finally moved on from it, but for the first 3, even 4 years in some instances, Sony still cared very much about the PS4. And This was when the PS5, you're talking about a time when the PS5 is being sold for $500, sometimes going on sale for $450. What we're about to see with the PlayStation 6 is going to be kind of like the next level of this, where the PlayStation 6 is, I'm going to be honest, guys, there's just no chance this console comes in at $500. You're not going to see a PlayStation 6 coming in at $500. The best you could dream of, and I say it that way because I still am not convinced it's even going to be $600. It's going to be minimum a $600 console. And there's nothing Sony can do about that. There's nothing. And the only thing they could do is sell each PlayStation 6 at what would probably be a massive loss. And considering how that would reflect on their earnings and their revenue, they're not going to do that. So what I predict we're going to see next generation is a much more conservative Sony, in the sense of like, the PlayStation 6 generation is not meant to win the masses over. They're going to try their best, but the plan ultimately, I think, will be, we need to try to win over, as much of the core PlayStation audience that we can. And we need to try to move them over, but we also are going to do so with the understanding that most people are not going to. Most people are not going to move from the PS5 to the PS6. 99% of video game publishers are going to be prioritizing the PlayStation 5 when the PS6 comes out, just like they did with the PS4 for a little bit, right? Hold on, I got to let Luna out. She's saying like the PS5 Pro. I mean, not necessarily. I will say the biggest difference between the PS5 Pro and the PlayStation 6 is going to be, the PlayStation 6 is going to have a lot more bells and whistles, if that makes sense. The PS6 is going to be a much more substantial upgrade than the PS5 Pro. The PS5 Pro really is just for the true enthusiast who just wants to spend the next 3 or 4 years just knowing that most AAA games you buy, you're going to get the best looking and running versions. The PS6 is going to offer more than that. It's going to have a whole new feature set, a whole new suite of features, and who knows what else, potential surprises they may have. But generally speaking, yeah, I want to say like there's, I'm not tuned into what Sony's actually planning. Nobody is, because that's happening behind the scenes right now. Bro, boss, okay. Come on. There is no difference between the Pro and the regular. You just fell for the BS. Well, actually, that's objectively false. That's just not true. I mean, Brandon, don't get me wrong. Like, if you believe the Pro, boss, come on. If you believe the Pro isn't really doing anything, that's fine. But you can't frame it that way. The way you just said that it's just an untrue statement. A better way to phrase what you just said is, there's minimal difference between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro, in my opinion, and I think anybody who bought it may have wasted their money. That's a better way to put it, because it's, the way you're framing it, you're making like people, listen, man, if what you're saying about the PS5 Pro, if that was true, then basically you're calling all PC gamers, like you're basically saying all PC gamers get scammed. Like anybody who upgrades GPUs or whatever, like, no, it's just we need to be in a more honest space when we're having these conversations. Where it's like, you don't have to believe the PS5 Pro is revolutionary and the greatest thing ever made, because it's not. That's literally not what it's meant to be. But you also, I think, can't sit here and honestly call it a scam when there's ample evidence that it's actually doing exactly what it said it would do. Lux, you're saying handheld will bring further push to digital. Physical can't be used for it unless every game has a code that ties to your account, which kills the secondhand market. And yes, this is the part that I'm really, really eager to know how Sony's going to handle it. Oh my God, boss, bro. Guys, if we could just get those, those 15 memberships and get this guy his treats, because he's just going to bite my microphone the whole time. I'm really curious to see how Sony does this because, yeah, man, the assumption is that if you're somebody who buys a PS6 and then you buy the dedicated handheld, you're going to have access to your digital library, but if you want to play a physical game, yeah, like I guess you can, right? Okay. No, boss, you're being bad right now, bro. Come on. And Kaz Jam comes in and drops a member gift. Kaz Jam's like, I gotta help my boy out right now. Boss is going crazy. Boss is okay. All right. Kaz Jam, thank you. He's trying to end the suffering. He brings us up to 11 members. Let me increase that a little bit. Stop biting that. Stop. Oh my God. Boss, stop biting that. Stop biting that. Kaz Jam, thank you so much for that, buddy. We're at 11. We'll get there. What are we talking about today? Right now, we're kind of having a conversation about the next gen console, the PlayStation 6, what we can expect. Basically talking about how if Sony does a handheld, like a dedicated handheld. Okay, don't bite that. Don't bite. Don't. Guys, he's rubbing up against the camera lens, bro. Don't bite it. Don't. Stop. Don't you bite. Boss, what do you think about the PlayStation 6? You want me to go all digital? Is that what you want? Damn, crazy ass cat. He hates it. Plus, was like, I'll eat this whole goddamn room if I don't get treats soon. But we were basically talking about how if Sony puts out a dedicated handheld alongside the PlayStation 6, then it likely means they're going to have like an all digital push, right? Because that's how that's going to. Okay. The disk drive would probably be a means to convert discs over to PS6 at some point. I haven't heard anything on Sons of the Forest, Tyson Webb. I actually forgot that game was even a thing. Stop it. Stop that. Bad cat. Boss, why you gotta ruin the conversation, man? We're just trying to talk about PlayStation 6. We're trying to talk about next gen. PS6 will be all digital. You think so? Yeah, I'm really nervous to see how Sony handles this. Okay. All right, that's it. You gotta go. Hold on. You gotta go. This is too much. It's too much. Come on, let's go. Back on your tower. God, it's like having a kid around. Bro, what? Okay. Hold on. Like, boss, what did you just do? Hold on, guys. He messed something up. I think we're good. Hold on. You're not allowed over here again. Boss farted on the camera. There's shit everywhere, bro. Boss just had explosive diarrhea all over my monitor. Thanks a lot, guys. We had one job to get to 25 members, and it was like a ticking time bomb. And we didn't get there. Really appreciate it. All right. We have I'm sorry, Michael, to keep you waiting with your super chat. My bad, bro. Michael Lynch says, with the PlayStation 6, I think Sony will implement AI on a level that convinces the naysayers that, okay, AI can be used awesomely. I'm very intrigued by the notion of the PlayStation 6 pushing AI somewhat aggressively. I'm intrigued by this because we did see that leaked demonstration. It was supposed to be an internal demo. Nope. I don't think so, bro. We saw that leaked demonstration with Horizon and Aloy, and how you could just talk to Aloy, and she would answer your questions and stuff. It was kind of weird, a little bit disturbing, unsettling, if you will. And Sony obviously struck that down because people were not allowed to, it was not meant for the public. So Sony was obviously very upset about that. But, you have to imagine that this is the type of stuff they're likely looking into and thinking about and trying to, okay, if we're going to come out with the next gen console, you're going to get better resolutions, better graphics, higher frame rates, all this stuff. Sony needs an angle. They need something. They need the hook, right? The real selling point of the PlayStation 6. What's it going to be? And I mean, AI seems like it's likely to be one of the main hook points, right? One of the main selling points of the PlayStation 6, as well as maybe even the next generation Xbox. I mean, I don't know how deep Microsoft is going to get into that. They obviously are heavily involved in AI. Because if it's not AI, then it's what else is it going to be? So I do agree with you, Michael, that I think Mark Cerny, that engineering team, they're likely in the process of working on this now, figuring out how they can implement AI into the PlayStation 6 in a really meaningful way, into PlayStation 6 games. But it's really the execution that I think is going to matter because, just kind of saying advanced AI or whatever, integration, I don't know that that's going to excite people. It might excite some people, but to really kind of win over a larger group of people, they're going to have to see it in action. And it's that right there, executing on that. Here's what we've done with AI integration on the PlayStation 6. And what you're describing is a more optimistic view of people walk away being oh my God, that's awesome. It could go the other way though, right? Where Sony's going to do something like this. And I think about it and I'm well, trying to implement AI aggressively into your games and into your next gen console, it's a double-edged sword. It's very risky because it might be one of these things where it's we just got to convince people they want this. We're showing you something you didn't even know you needed. And we're hoping that that's going to make people go, holy shit, yeah, I need that. Or it's going to just be it turns out people really don't want this. They just think it's a gimmick or whatever. It's a double-edged sword, It's definitely a double-edged sword. If you saw people's reactions to the leaked AI Aloy conversation, yeah, I mean, Titus, you're saying I despair how much people here don't know about AI. Well, what do you, Titus? What do you mean? And Corey the Legend comes in. Sorry. No, not excited. Corey, bro, really appreciate that. You know I'm yelling on the inside. I got to keep it low key for now. Corey comes in and he drops another 5 memberships for you guys. He brings us up to 16. We're 9 away. We're 9 away. My bad. I hit 19. We get 9 more. We can, give this guy what he wants. Not yet. She's just gonna scratch the door trying to get out. Corey, thank you so much for that, buddy. Corey's an AI. Maybe Corey is an AI and something went wrong, and that's why he can't stop talking about like killing alligators and hunting crocs and stuff, Because it's like this is something we've known about for a long time, but he's like fixated on it suddenly. Something went wrong with the AI. Ask us a question. Titus says, well, Whisper from OpenAI gets 5 solid minutes of me ranting in Scottish. So I don't use AI at all. Kojima's holding a panel today. I didn't know about this. Yeah, I don't actually use AI. I hear people talk about using it, and I don't know. I just have no interest for some reason. I don't want to talk to AI. You think I should? Yeah, I can feel like the more primitive side of me kind of like coming out when I think about AI, where it's like I don't want to engage or interact. You think if there's a SOCOM PS6 exclusive launch title, it'll be a hit and a system seller? I mean, I like that. I like the sound of that 0 point. I just worry that Sony doesn't understand. Like I feel like what you just said, it's like, yes, that would be fantastic. I think that would, I don't think that would necessarily win over the masses, but I think it would be a system seller at launch. A lot of, you'd have a lot of SOCOM fans being happy. Where's Devil Shooter at? He said he's going to try, he's busy today, I think is what he said. So, he did let me know that if he's able to do timestamps for the stream, they're probably going to come a little bit later. So no worries there. Your phone doesn't support Gemini. They keep bugging me about it. I keep getting like emails and like invitations, like use Gemini or whatever. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. And I don't want to use it. Like, please leave me alone. Let me be stupid, please. Like I want to be stupid and unaware. I want to be blissfully unaware. You see the commercials of people just chatting to AI seems weird. I mean, that's the thing is like, I don't necessarily think it's weird. I don't. Like, I actually completely understand it. I just don't have any personal interest in it. Alligator Incineration. That sounds like a band. Yeah, so actually, you know what? I lied. I do engage with AI a little bit for Twitter. It's called Grok. I think that's what it's called. And people, anytime I come across something, and this is where it is pretty useful, like you come across things on the internet that lack context, and you're like, I don't know what I'm looking at. And then you ask Grok, and a lot of times it'll provide that context. But my whole thing is like, I would have just been better off not knowing about any of this or not seeing any of it. I've just put useless information into my brain now. Thanks. JD Gamer with a super chat says, which system do you expect to be more powerful, the Xbox hybrid PC or the PlayStation 6? And which handheld do you think will be more powerful, the Xbox or PlayStation? Well, actually, I could see the next Xbox ultimately being more powerful. And the reason for that is because I don't think Microsoft is going to be... they're not going to be concerned about trying to appeal to a wider market. I think Microsoft's going to try to make a very, very powerful, but also very expensive console. That's going to just be for like, hey, do you like the sound of that? if you're the person who likes the sound of that, then this is for you. And I think it will be more powerful than the PlayStation 6, but I also think it'll be uh, more expensive. I think the PlayStation 6 will still be very powerful, but here's the interesting thing about that, right? Is like we look at the Xbox Series X, we look at the PS5, and right now people already feel like the differences between them in a lot of cases are negligible. Right now, people are already having conversations about the differences between the PS5 and the PS5 Pro and feeling like a lot of it, or at least some of it, is negligible. So I don't really know that it's going to matter, to be honest. I don't think power can be a real, true selling point for either the PlayStation 6 or the next generation Xbox. I don't think it can be, because I think people are just going to see the games and they're going to be like, well, I mean, they look a little bit better, but not really that much at all. We saw this. People were looking at games like Horizon and God of War, and they're like, I mean, they kind of look not exactly the same, but really, really similar to their PS4 counterparts. So I don't really think that power necessarily is the only way I could see power being marketable with the next generation consoles is if, again, Sony and Microsoft can find a like a kind of inroad with a feature. Like, the power of this console is what facilitates this new feature. If they can do that, I think they might be on to something. But trying to go with the whole, like, you saw Microsoft at the teraflops, or if you see Sony, like Sony can't go with the SSD thing again, Not that there was anything wrong with that, with either of those things. It's just, I think people are beyond those points now. There's going to have to be something more meaningful, something more tangible, something more practical, and that's where AI, again, makes a very interesting case. Who knows? Maybe that's what'll get me deeply involved with AI. Now, when it comes to the handhelds, I think the PlayStation handheld is going to be more powerful, because this is an area where I could see Microsoft actually wanting to actually try to. I could see them trying to view the handheld as a device that could find more broad success. You know what I mean? Like something a little bit cheaper, something a little bit more affordable. But I don't know, man. I don't know. There's been so many rumors about these things. All I do know is that right now the PlayStation 6 handheld, or whatever, the next PlayStation handheld, it's rumored to be an expensive device. So, and Lux, you're saying SOCOM's franchise lifetime sales 12 million, not great. Yeah, but I don't know, man. This is where I think Sony's just gotta. If they were to take a completely different approach to SOCOM, where it's like free to play, if not free to play, just like something that's positioned kind of like a Helldivers, $40. You got co-op, you got multiplayer, tactical gameplay. Try to position it as a potential live service with at least 1 year of support, and then build from there. The question is, who would make it? I think that's the real question. The team that made SOCOM, they don't exist anymore. So Sony would have to be giving SOCOM to somebody who's never made a SOCOM before. I don't think SOCOM's coming back, though. To be completely honest, I don't think Sony is going to do anything with that property or that franchise, which is a shame, because I do feel like that. I could be wrong, but I do feel like that's a game that people would be excited to play. I don't know that it would find the biggest audience, but I think it could find an audience nonetheless. PS6 handheld will have an Astrobot like game only. You think like the handheld will have a built-in Astro game? Oh, that would be interesting. Don't know about the Latias, but FF7's Part 3 reboot being more about the life of Sephiroth gameplay sounds like it'd be worth it. You know what I think's so funny talking about Final Fantasy. I love how like we just watched the business relationship between Sony and Square Enix just collapse in real time. I mean, Square Enix was completely on board with like PlayStation, Sony, exclusivity, and within a couple years, they're like, we want nothing to do with any of that. Kind of crazy. Um, Speaking of AI in games, imagine they update GTA 6 so you can scream at random pedestrians and NPCs. That would be funny. I mean, God, that sounds like it would get heinous really quickly. Really, really quickly. You think Square's back in Nintendo's underwear? Oh, dude, that would be amazing. Having a built-in Mark Cerny AI for the PlayStation 6. Oh my God, I would buy that. Yeah, there you go. There's your selling point. Well, Joshua, wow. Okay, man. Yeah, Mark Cerny's really. This is gonna be his last console, obviously. Sorry, I'm just imagining like, yeah, Mark Cerny becoming like, he's like, I'm gonna implant my consciousness into every PlayStation 6, essentially. So I hear you guys didn't like the SSD. You thought I was scamming you with the SSD. Well, let's see how you feel about me being part of the PlayStation 6. Mark Cerny versus Kojima's brain in the year 2077. Mm. You don't understand how many ears. Oh, God. Dude, I remember Mark Cerny talked about, he's like, send me pictures of your ears. Mark Xavier. Well, I mean, listen, man, when it comes to the next generation of console between PlayStation, between Xbox, I mean, it seems like they're both going down a relatively similar path hardware wise, where they're both going to have consoles. They're, not just, they're going to have home consoles, but they're also going to have handheld consoles and a whole family of devices. MBG, now that we know that the entire art direction of Marathon was stolen, we know as a matter of fact that the only thing original is the fuzzy, unappealing, puke colored green grass. Oh my God, William. Well, see, that's the thing, right? Going back to the Bungie situation. I mean, if it turns out that it's like we can't use that, like, this art style at all. Like, what does that even mean for the game? Like, at that point, you have to completely redo the entire game. Like, you have to overhaul the entire art style. And that's, I mean, dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, if this is where it's headed, like, just cancel it, dude. Just cancel it. You think they'd be so cooked? I mean, what are they going to do? My guess is they're going to try to settle this, but I don't know. No, boss. All right, here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do for boss. We did hit 16 members, so I'll give him a little Little appetizer. All right. Little appetizer. Boss, you'll get payment in full if we hit the 25. Just please, God, like, just stay over there. I don't need you wrecking the stream again. Tell me I'm wrong. The grass looks terrible. PS3 called and wanted its textures back. I'll be honest, I actually didn't even notice. I'd have to look more closely at it. I mean, the art style of Marathon looks okay. I mean, I think people were maybe hyping it up a little too much, you know, making it sound like this is the craziest, most unique and interesting art style we've ever seen. It's like, not really. It's something. I mean, to me, the only thing that makes that art style pop, in my opinion, is the highlighter colors, like the fluorescent coloring, basically. It looks okay. Okay, I just gave you treats. You just got some. There's not more over there. Sorry. I mean, when it comes to Marathon and the way it looks, I think it looks okay. It looks okay. Oh my god, dude, this is one of those days where, like, I don't want cats around me while I'm streaming. I got this guy over here. No. Just no, bro. Oh my god. I don't need this. You think Apex Legends looks better? I'm gonna have to build a little fence. I'm gonna just have to put a cage here. How about that? Boss is gonna break his rusty cage. Don't, bro, just bit me. Boss, don't bite the hand that feeds. Don't bite the hand that feeds. All right, let me get back on track here. It was all for research purposes. Well, getting back to what I was trying to say about the PlayStation 6, ultimately, I think Sony is going to. I think this is going to be their strategy. I've talked about it before. It's worth mentioning again. I think Sony's going to get really aggressive with the PlayStation 6 and try to really win people over and be like, it's a new gen. Get excited. Get the PlayStation 6. We got games. We got a handheld. It's going to be amazing. And they're going to do so in the hopes that, like, can we position the PlayStation 6 to have the same trajectory that the PS4 and the PS5 had during the same time period? And if that happens, then they're just going to keep it going. But if it doesn't happen, if there's like, it's not happening because the PS6 is more expensive, whatever the reasoning might be, in that case, I think Sony they'll have a backup plan. And that backup plan will be exactly what I talked about, where they're going to treat it more like, well, we're going to have to rely much more heavily on the PS5 than we thought. We're not going to be able to rely on the PlayStation 6 outpacing the PS5 or the PS4. Magnum Gaming with a super chat says this Bungie infringement situation may be a precedent to a heavier use of AI assets moving forward. Oh my god. I'm this close to removing all the cats from this bedroom. Magnum Gaming, I mean, yeah, if you think about it, if there was an AI maybe programmed to kind of comb over everything and filter everything and to be able to detect if, like, potential match here, like, you got, this art style you're using seems to match up with this specific artist and their body of work. An argument could definitely be made, certainly, that Bungie and Sony would be benefiting greatly from that. They absolutely, just having something in place to prevent this situation from even occurring in the first place, I could see that being very valuable, because this situation is very much a nightmare for everybody involved. Leo Jimmy, you're saying PlayStation's worst gen was PS3 because they didn't hit 100 million, but it was their best teacher as well. Yeah, I mean, what's interesting about going into the PlayStation 6 generation is that if they fail to hit 100 million again, or if it just seems like it's getting off to a much slower start, it'll be, I think, for very different reasons. For the PS3, it was because they got arrogant and they thought that they could do literally whatever they wanted with no consequence, and they found out very quickly that that's not the case. In the looking ahead to the PlayStation 6, it seems like it's going to be very different in the sense that, like, well, if they do price their console at 600, it's not out of greed. It's because of, because they have to. Like, they have no choice. Guys, I apologize that I have to keep getting up. I'm sorry. It's just, I'm getting my exercise in, Just slammed that door so damn hard. I'm scaring Leia away. I'm like, get out, and don't come back. No sound. What do you mean? Boss looking. Yeah, I'm trying to worry. You better look worried. You're next. Just gonna start slamming doors, scaring the shit out of my cats. I gotta remain the alpha, bro. They're taking over. I must not show weakness. Are you kidding me? Is this a joke? He's trying to straight up challenge me. Boss is like, sorry, Dad, more treats. Swear, man. Boss isn't planning world domination. He's just planning on completely taking over the channel. More. I am a little bit nervous about how the next generation is going to play out. I don't want to see Sony really struggle, obviously, unnecessarily. I want to see console gaming continue to thrive and do well, and I ultimately think it will. I could see the next generation getting off to a slower, rougher start potentially. It is worth noting, though, that when the PlayStation, I mean, it's an assumption, but I would hope it's a safe assumption. When the PlayStation 6 rolls around, I don't think Sony's going to have to worry about dealing with a global pandemic again. Now that I've said that, though, I've cursed us. Lux, you're saying, will we be making fun of the idiots who buy a PlayStation 6 handheld over a console, therefore playing weaker versions of the games? Absolute Series S clowns. Maybe, yeah, depending. I mean, it's hard to say because it boils, like, my big concern, if there is any concern, is the idea that if Sony is going to tether this handheld to the PlayStation 6, it's like I mentioned earlier, if they mandate it where it's like there needs to be parity, there needs to be parity across them. I mean, that's gonna be a rough one. That's like that would worry me, because it's like, well, if you can prove me wrong, and I think that's the problem with the Series S, man, is the Series S it's a double-edged sword. Like, I was extremely skeptical of the Series S when it first came out. And I still think that maybe Microsoft didn't think it through enough. But the reality of the Series S is one that I don't think some people really want to acknowledge. And that is that it plays and runs most games. Like 99% of the games that have come out this gen, like they run and they play on the Series S. It's just there are a few instances where either A, they don't run well. Like they're just like, wow, okay, this is rough. Like this is really rough and makes it, kind of calls into question, like, why would you want to play a game that's struggling like this or looks like this? B, when there's alternative options. Or B, there's been a select few games where they've run into some trouble. And, I do, we have to ask the question, like, are people too hard on the Series S? Were people too hard on it? I'm not sure. And you know why? Because I remember I put out this tweet years ago, and I got a lot of support for this tweet, but looking back on it, I remember I put out this tweet where I was like, I'm not going to quote it directly, but paraphrasing it, I said something along the lines of, man, I'm like going to be really pissed if it turns out that the Xbox Series S ends up holding back games like later in the generation. And there was this fear. There was this fear that the Series S was going to hold things back. If you look at where we are now, if you look at the way things have unfolded, the Series S was not the problem, and it is not the problem. The problem, yeah, and the irony of all of that is, like, meanwhile, 2 years later, we're getting God of War Ragnarok on the PS4. So the Series S was never the problem, looking back on it. The problem is I don't want to say like the industry itself, but just the fact that no one really knows. No one knew at that time, and no one knows now exactly where these things are supposed to be going. Like what is the next step forward in console gaming? I mean, seriously, think about it. Like, we thought we were going to be looking down the barrel of 5 years down the line. We get games being announced for the PS5, the Xbox Series X, and the Series S, and the game looks last gen because it's being held back by the Series S. And it's like, that's just not how it's going down. And yes, like, we hit the ceiling, dude. Now, I don't know whether or not Microsoft necessarily had that foresight. I think that would be giving them a little bit too much credit. I think the reason why they went for the Series S was because they just wanted to try to target a more casual audience and have the cheaper console, which makes sense from a business perspective. It just didn't work. Although you could argue it did, because half the console sales this gen for Xbox were Series S consoles. But our fears were, I think they were founded, to be clear. Like, I think the big problem, hindsight 2020, the big problem back in 2020 when these new gen consoles were launching is it just didn't dawn on most of us. And it took years. And, we're at this point now, but I think a lot of people would agree with this. Like, we just didn't quite understand. And I don't think Sony nor Microsoft even fully understood. I think that they were just kind of going with it themselves, like rolling with it. Nobody really understood that, guys, like, this is the end of the traditional console cycle. And by traditional, we mean, like, the way things have been done, like the past 3 or 4 console generations for like the last decade and a half. Yeah, we're not doing it that way anymore. Change has come. And the change isn't going to be swift and overnight. It's going to be a bit, it's going to be paced. It's going to be paced. It's going to start in 2020. You see a little bit more in 2021. You see a little bit more in 2022. 2023, you're going to see even more. By 2024 and 2025, we're looking at a completely different landscape, a completely different generation. You cannot compare. Like, I realize, like, you can't compare the PS5 generation to the PS4 because it gets all messed up. Like, when people say, like, there's no games worth buying a PS5 for, it's like, I don't think you understand that those days are long gone, dude. Like, Sony's not out here trying to sell you a specific game to buy a PS5 anymore. If they can do that with Ghost of Yotei, that's great, but that's not really what they're doing. You know what I mean? Like, they understand, like, that's just not really a thing anymore. People talk about, well, this gen sucked because of cross-gen, and it's like, yeah, okay, that's fine if you didn't like that. That's not changing, though. Like, cross-gen's going to be even more aggressive between PS5 and PS6. So I just think that, there was this expectation going into this generation that was just not, I don't say not met, but the expectation was not aligned with the reality of, like, here's how it's actually going to play out. Leo Jimmy, you're saying MBG money, so many games now, got to catch up on so many games coming up. They're going to have to give me a valid game to get a PS6, like a PlayStation All-Stars, story-driven, M-rated game. Wait, are you saying we need a... I'm assuming those are two separate games, because there's no way you're saying you need a PlayStation All-Stars that's also rated M and has a mature story. You know what? Actually, it sounds amazing. An undeniable banger. Let's go, bro. I like this. PlayStation All-Stars 2. And it's like so serious. Rated M for mature. I'd buy it. And that's the thing, Leo Jimmy. I think that what you're describing is fair. What you're describing is fair. And I think that it makes sense. But what you're describing also, I think it describes every generation. It describes the way things have been mostly up until this point and the way that we believe they're supposed to be. But I think that's over, dude. I do. I really like. What I mean by that is that's not to say it's not that Sony won't have games at the launch of the PlayStation 6. They will. Like, Sony will have a launch lineup and they will have games. Will any one of those games not release on PS5? I doubt it. I hate to say it, man, and maybe I'll be wrong, but I do think Sony's going to take a very, like, I'm trying to think of the right way to describe it without just repeating what I said earlier, because I am trying to describe something slightly different. They're going to, I think, try to convey a message that, believe it or not, is a little bit similar to Microsoft, where it's like, hey, listen, we really want you, like, we want you to buy a PlayStation 6. We really do. And we're going to market the shit out of it. We're going to show you all the games running on it. We're going to hype it. We're going to hype this thing up to the moon and back. But we are okay if you choose to buy a PS5 instead, or a PS5 Pro. We're okay. We are okay with that. And I think the reason they're going to have to take this approach is because they're going in anticipating that's what's going to happen regardless. Because think of it like this. What do you think would happen if the PlayStation 6 rolls around? It's going to be $600, and Sony says, here's our launch lineup. All of these games are exclusive to just the PlayStation 6. What do you think happens? I think nothing happens. I think that anybody who wants the PS6 is going to buy it and would be, like, yeah, look at these awesome exclusives I got. And I think most people will just be like, well, all right, I'll get to it eventually, maybe. You think they're going to have to? I don't know. I'm not convinced of that. I know that sounds antithetical to, like, the way PlayStation has been, but it's because I don't know. I think that's a risky approach at this point. You think it'll sell? I mean, maybe you guys are right. Yeah, I could be wrong. There is a history here. There is actual evidence that this can work. It has worked before, but I just feel like for Sony, considering the direction they're going in, they probably see that as that it's too risky to do that. You know, like if they have a launch lineup of Spider-Man 3, Bloodborne remake, maybe within the next year after that, Last of Us Part 3 or something. Maybe a couple of other things. I think you're right in that, like, it would create an initial boom. Like, holy shit, like, people are, like, the PS6 is flying off the shelves. People are buying this shit in droves. But the real question that would have to be answered, is, okay, so, like, is this going to do better than the PS5 and the PS4? It's like, well, no, it's doing about the same. See, that's where I think the problem comes in. Is it's like, if Sony were to use every trick in the book to make the PS6 do just as well as the PS5 and the PS4, the real problem with that there is that, like, they know where the ceiling lies there. So I don't know. We're still a ways off from it, but it does seem like Sony's going to have to figure something out when it comes to, like, okay, what does future growth look like? And I only say this because that's what they're going to be pursuing. I don't really care. If Sony wanted to go back to the traditional way of doing things and just say, we don't care if it sells less. We don't care. We're happy with selling 5 to 8 to 10 million units of our games. If they said, I would be fine with that. Like, okay, that's cool. If they basically did what Nintendo's doing, I'd be cool with that. But I think there's more than enough evidence in front of us that Sony is making it clear. Yeah, like Hiroki Totoki mentioning monthly active users and stuff. It's like, I don't know, man. I just think PlayStation players, I do see that there's still a very core enthusiastic group of PlayStation fans. And I consider myself part of that, where it's like, we love the console, right? We love the way Sony's been doing things mostly, and we kind of don't want it to change. But I think that they need to kind of prepare themselves that, like, guys, I'm fairly certain that the way they're going to approach the PlayStation 6 is going to be vastly different from the way that they've approached any other console. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to sell. It doesn't mean that it's not going to do well. It just means that they have accepted that the most we'll probably get out of this is 110 million units. And that's great. And they want that, but they're going to need more than that this time. Because if they don't produce more than that this time, and I'm not talking about sales, I'm talking about just revenue and profit and maybe game sales. If they don't produce more than that this time, then basically what that means is they're turning to their shareholders, they're turning to the investors and saying, hey, you see where we are? This is where we're staying. We're stagnating. And if you look at the way the way these corporations and businesses are run today, like that's a death rattle in the eyes of investors. So I do think that people need to prepare themselves that the PlayStation 6 generation, and I don't think it's going to be a bad thing. I'm not trying to make it sound like, I think some people are going to, like, collapse and be like, this is so bad. And, like, oh my God, what happened? And, you already see it now. Like, people are making fun of, like, oh, now Sony's focused on MAUs, just like Microsoft. And it's like, listen, you could do the whole back and forth thing with, was Microsoft wrong? Were they right? Was Sony right? Were they wrong? And it's like, bro, they both messed up in some ways. I think Sony's done a much better job in the console space, but we've reached the end limits. Like, there's a reason the console war is over. It's not just because Microsoft is out. There's a reason why Microsoft is out. It's because they all understand that, like, is there any other land here, like, to conquer? Like, is there anything else? Is there any other stone to turn over? And it's like, no, dude, you've turned over all the stones. You, Nintendo, Microsoft, all the stones that could be turned over have been turned over. Now you gotta go and either stay where you are and be okay with what is, or move in some different directions. But the biggest difference between Sony and Microsoft in this case, and Nintendo for that matter, Nintendo and Sony are going to be able to likely maintain the success that they found in this market. And that's going to be crucial to their entire business. But there is that kind of risk of like, you don't want to upset it too much. Lux, I'm sorry, buddy. I almost missed your super chat here. You're saying, look at Nintendo with MK. Have the right game. It'll work. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think you're right about that. But I think also, I don't know. There's an inherent philosophical difference here, it seems. The thing about Nintendo is, this brings me back to looking at that chart comparing like yearly revenue. One of the things that I found surprising about that chart is that Nintendo makes way less money than PlayStation and even Xbox now. I don't know what their profit margins are. And I understand profit margins are maybe even more important, but just in terms of like, sheer revenue and money made, like I didn't realize it was that big of a difference. It's actually quite staggering. I think Nintendo made $8 billion in revenue and Sony's at like 31. Microsoft's at 22. So it's the idea that Sony, and this is where it's simple logic, where the idea that Sony's going to look at the company that's making, almost like 4 times less revenue than them and say, we're going to do what they do. You could kind of see just from a logic standpoint, it's like, why would you do that? If what you're doing is making way more money, why would you do what the company who's making a lot less money is doing? And that is, that's an important thing to keep in mind because from a high corporate level, that's how they see it. And the problem with PS is they spend like horse. Sony doesn't know how to stop spending that money, bro. Piper, you're saying, bro, why do you keep saying Microsoft is out when they clearly have a new Xbox coming out and a handheld and still dropping amazing games? Well, I guess it's because it's like, it's not that Microsoft's out. I just mean like Microsoft has given up on seeking growth in the console market. And the reason why they've given that up is, like I said, because they see the ceiling. Now, granted, they failed to grow it efficiently, but when they had to come to the conclusion, like, is this really worth it? Like should we really try? They basically were like, no, because even if we did succeed, there's the upper limit. Not that it's a bad upper limit. They would love to be there, but it's like, there's already 2 competitors that are on that upper limit. Is there room for a third? When you look at it from this perspective, actually it makes, like, I don't even think I could be mad at Microsoft because it's like, think about what I just said. Like, you got two competitors that are already at that upper limit. Is there even room for a third? And how would you even get there? At that point, it's like, yeah, maybe just move on, right? Because if you look at what Sony's doing, it seems to indicate that things were going to start to go in this direction anyway. It's just Microsoft's going to have to be okay with starting to go in this direction or fully going in this direction, knowing that you don't really have a big successful console install base to bring with you that you built with your own platform and your own storefront. Microsoft's still taking big storefronts with them in the direction they're headed. They're taking the Nintendo storefront. They're taking the Sony storefront. But it's just like, I don't know. When it comes to trying to gauge, like, people have been talking to me, a lot of you guys, you're the people, about how there's a big change. Like, there's a big change, and it's here. It's happening. It's been happening, but now it's accelerating, and it's becoming more clear. And I can't help but as each month goes by and as each new announcement is made to kind of see like, yeah, yeah, like the change is real, man. Titus is saying, yeah, MBG, why you got to dunk on Xbox? Bro, Piper, I just got to ask you a question, man. Were you here? Because maybe you actually weren't. Like, I don't know if you just came in the stream, but like about maybe 20 minutes ago, I was saying that we were, I think, wrong about the Series S. I said that. Can't wait for them gaming showcases. Well, I don't know what Sony's doing, but I can tell you I'm looking forward to Summer Game Fest and the Xbox show. Those are two shows we know we're getting soon. So I'm excited for them. I'm excited to hang out with you guys and stream. The console market is experiencing attrition on both ends, with older folks moving on or dropping off, and the younger generation isn't picking up the consoles at a rate to replace those losses. Yeah, like I want to let's talk about like a doomsday scenario for console fanboys, you know? Doomsday scenario. It's what we're seeing with Microsoft right now. The doomsday scenario is, oh my God. So that's it? Like you guys lost and you're like prioritizing going into other places. And you know what's interesting? And this is where I think like what Piper's saying, it does fascinate me, because I don't necessarily think that PlayStation will end up in the exact same place, but think about it. Like, if you're somebody who, like myself, you grew up playing on console. You grew up playing on console. It's how you like to play your games. The console, like, you care about it. Not in like a weird sense, but just in the sense that like that to me, that's how I grew up playing games. That's how I want to play games. I love the console experience. And you have no desire to go to PC. And you look out there and you see other options. Right now, there's PC, Nintendo Switch 2, or, an Xbox console. I think the doomsday scenario is in talking about Sony. It's similar to Microsoft, where let's say halfway through next generation, Sony goes full tilt and they're like, yeah, guys, we're like, let's just say they do exactly what Microsoft does. Let's just put it out there, right? Because this is the whole thing. Microsoft, I encounter this all the time where Xbox players, they want to convince me and convince others that this is going to happen. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, it may not even be this generation, but it's going to happen at some point. Sony's going to follow the exact path that Microsoft is on. Let's just say they do. Hypothetical scenario. Doomsday scenario. PlayStation announces, we're putting our games everywhere. Day one, not just PC, Switch 2. Anywhere we can put our games, we're putting them day one. But we're still going to make a console. We will still have a PlayStation 7. And we'll still have a family of devices. And we'll still make accessories. So, if you think about it, what I'm describing is what we have right now. Think of it like this. What we have right now, I'll just speak for myself, and you guys can tell me if you're in a similar position. Oh, whoa, hey, whoa. Whoa. Okay. Guys, as I'm going through this hypothetical scenario, if you want to drop 9 more memberships, 9 more, baby. I'm giving Boss a little advance because and Luna, because she's trying to knock it over. So, right now, I have a PS5 Pro. Well, I have multiple PS5s, but I have a PS5 Pro. I have some DualSense controllers. I got the Pulse Elite headset here. Subscribe to PlayStation Plus Essential. Okay. And I game daily. And when I game, I boot up my PlayStation, and that's where I play. And I play a myriad of different games. If I found out tomorrow, now I'm gonna do this hypothetical scenario. Part of the hypothetical is I don't run this YouTube channel. I'm doing something else for a living. I'm a vet. I'm a vet or something. You know, I'm working with animals. I'm just kidding. I would never be a vet. I'm just doing something else, right? Doing something else for a living. I don't have a YouTube channel. I don't even have an online presence. If Sony announced tomorrow that, guys, going forward, there are no exclusive games. Death Stranding 2 is going to Xbox. Kojima's going to make a Switch 2 port when he's done. It's going to go day one PC. And we're going to start maybe putting PlayStation Plus in other places. And we're still going to make consoles. We're still going to have a next generation, the whole nine yards. If Sony did this right now, I'm being dead serious when I tell you, like, again, if I'm not, like, if I didn't have to do a stream being like, sound the alarms, you know, it's just me. I wake up every day. It's just my life. Nothing changes for me. Not, like, literally, and I'm not kidding, like, nothing changes. My excitement for Death Stranding 2 is exactly the same. My excitement for Ghost of Yotei is exactly the same. The only thing that I might think to myself is, I wonder if they're going to sell a lot of PS6s. Probably not. But then the next thought I would have is, well, as long as they keep making console for somebody like me, I guess that's all that matters. That's the reality, dude. I'm not saying they should. To be clear, I'm not saying that would be a smart thing for Sony to do. I think that would cause a lot of problems right now. But I'm just saying, if this is where this ends, if the end game of the console market is it's a free-for-all because there's no more growth to be had in the console market and it's actually going to start shrinking, then the only thing that matters to me at that point is those who manufacture the consoles. Those who manufacture the consoles, are you still going to provide that experience for me? Because I'm not kidding when I say, like, I really don't want to go to PC. I do not want to go to PC, and I really don't want to go to Nintendo. No offense. It's just, it's not for me. And if the answer to that question is yeah, like, we'll still support that for that audience that's still there. I can live with that. But I in the same breath, I do want to explain that I understand the mentality. I do, because I grew up with it. Like, this is what I know. I understand the mentality of, like, no, dude. Like, what are you talking about? Like, PlayStation needs an identity. Like, they need exclusives. They need to have things that define the console experience and make it special or unique or valuable or whatever. You know? PC welcomes you, but you got to upgrade that 3060. Oh, man. Well, PC's expensive as all hell, dude. But, like, you know, I understand. Like, this is how things were. This is how things were. You know? And it was easy to assume that's how they were always going to be, because that's what we grew up with. That's what I grew up with. Like, yeah, you need exclusives to sell a console. Michael, yo, what's up, man? Michael trying to get me to DM him, bro. What are you trying to pull off, Michael? Piper, you're saying, bro, ponies in the chat think it's a flex to pay $70 for a game and get nothing but old games in the service that they're paying for. Shaking my head. Well, I mean, listen, man. It's like I said, there are a lot of people who do just like buying their games. Mike, you're saying, a PS5 giveaway. A PS5 giveaway, you say? I'll ponder this. I do think it's, like, weird. Listen, I do see some of it. I do. Or to Smash. Saying I look sharp? Oh, thank you. I don't want to argue. Like, I don't think it's worth arguing. Like, should you buy games? Is it bad to buy games? Is it good to buy games? Like, people, I think, do need to get a more realistic, grounded perspective, generally speaking, of like, dude, just do what you want. It's your money. If you get satisfaction buying games, whether that be physically, digitally, for $70, for $80, for $50, if you get satisfaction buying games that are on sale, then do it. Who do you need to justify that to? If you get satisfaction out of not doing that and buying games secondhand or being sub to a service, and that's all you care about, you don't need to justify that to anybody. I realize that, so much of the conversation today is still about, it still hinges on like these old set of rules or whatever, that it's like, we learned very quickly that the rules are not made by us and they will change very quickly at a moment's notice if the corporations who make these rules decide this is what they're going to change, and they don't even need to explain to you why. It's why it's best not. Yeah, this is why they say like don't cheer on the corporations. Like, yeah, like you could support them if you enjoy what they're doing, but you don't want to don't trust them, because you can't trust profit-driven business. It could change at any moment. So, people, I mean, you have to understand, Piper, like, if I had to guess, well, yeah, I mean, I know people keep saying, like, Microsoft is dead or Xbox is dead. I'll be honest, man, like, I do think people need to drop that. Like, you could say the Xbox console is maybe dead. And it's like, oh, okay, maybe. But that it doesn't, like, I don't, that statement doesn't do anything anymore. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Like, I say this as somebody who it would benefit me to say that more, but it's like, it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Like, Microsoft will look you dead in the eye and say, you're damn right, the console's dead. We're still going to make another one. If you want it. You probably don't, but we're making it anyway. Like, that's what they're doing. And it's like, oh, all right. So I guess it's technically not dead. No, it's not. I think what people need to start saying is the Xbox console is no longer appealing. That's the better way. Like, that's the accurate way to describe it. The Xbox console is no longer appealing because it's now been relegated to just an alternative option for anybody who really, really wants it. And that's fine. Not what I thought was going to happen, not what I expected to happen, but it is what it is. And it's like, okay. But Piper, what I was going to say to you, man, is that, like, if you were to try to tell people, like certain PlayStation fans, like, bro, you got to go to Game Pass. Trust me. Stop wasting your money or, spending all this money, $70, $80 a pop on games. Go to Game Pass. You're going to get AAA bangers on a regular basis, paying $20 a month. If I had to guess, a lot of those people are going to say, they're going to ask, am I getting Ghost of Yotei on Game Pass? Am I going to get Intergalactic? Am I going to get Wolverine? Am I going to get Saros? Am I going to get any future PlayStation Studios titles? And the answer is like, no. It's like, are they coming later? And the answer is no. Are they coming ever? As of right now, the answer is no. So, and it's not even like the exclusivity factor. It's just the fact that, like, even if these games weren't exclusive, chances are they still, like, even if Sony were to say, like, we're going to release our games to sell on Xbox, they still wouldn't put it in Game Pass. You get what I'm saying? So there's going to be a lot of games that are not available in Game Pass. And I think as long as there's a myriad of games popular games, new games, big AAA games that do not drop into Game Pass or PlayStation Plus, there's always going to be people wanting to buy them because that's the only option they have. And the more they do that, the more conditioned they are to be like, oh, okay, well, yeah, this is how we do it, right? And it's cool. I have the game forever, or what feels like forever, right? I own it. And a lot of people I think have just settled on that. They're okay with that. And it's a good thing in general. Like, I don't want to say it's a flex. It's not a flex to say I pay $70 for my games. It's not a flex. But I think a better way to describe it is like, this is the way it's always been done, and it's a two-way street, and it works. And I'm okay with it. They're okay with it. I'm okay with it. And this is, this is why things are getting a bit more shaky, because now we're seeing prices increase. And I do think that Game Pass is just one, like, from my perspective, Game Pass, I think, for PlayStation players, or a lot of them, it's just another option. Like Doom. Like, if you're not completely sold on Doom, maybe you do go subscribe to Game Pass for a month, play it, or try some other games that you maybe are interested in. And if you feel like, you know what, I'm not feeling it, most of these games I'm not feeling, yeah, you're out $20. Not a huge deal. Now I just think that, I don't know, man, there's always the argument, people always want to argue about like what's better and what's best. And it's like I always say, man, one man's trash is another man's treasure. I think Death Stranding 2 is going to be easily one of the best games I play all year, maybe all generation. And there's going to be somebody standing next to me like, bro, that game looks like it's going to be hot garbage. And it's like, you know what, man? That's cool. That's cool. I'm not going to sit here and tell you it's not garbage. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit here and say, but hey, that's cool, man. I'm still going to play it anyway. Still probably going to be one of my favorite games. So go find a game that you don't think is hot garbage and enjoy. Bro, you're speaking to two audiences. What about the rest of us that has more than one gaming system? Well, I mean, yeah, a lot of people do play in multiple places as well. Josh Z with a super chat says, Nintendo has always been interesting because they are not a very rich company compared to competition, but they have tremendous brand power that competition wants. Yes. Yeah, I mean, there's brand power is one of these things where you can't really put a price on that. Brand power is something that's very hard to build up and also very hard to tear down. I mean, you could argue that, any of the most successful companies you see, it's like brand power is such a major part of that. I think Sony's doing a pretty good job with brand power. I think that they could be doing better. And in some areas they're lacking, but I think Microsoft gave up on brand power, bro. Like, if you want to talk about the thing that they gave up, I think that's what they gave up. I think they're just like, we don't need to have brand power. We just need to have ownership over the brands that have the power, but we have no, like, that's the thing is, like, when people think about Nintendo and their brand power, I don't know how to explain it. There's like something behind it that people recognize, like, you shepherded that. You know what I mean? Like, you built it up over time. People, I think, just understand that versus if a company just says, well, we're just going to make a large purchase and put our logo on it. It's not invalid. I've talked about that numerous times. It's not an invalid process. It's business. But it's nostalgia. Well, yeah, I guess that is part of it too, Because when you see a new, like, it's like seeing the PlayStation Studios logo in front of Marathon. Like, it just feels confused. It's like, it doesn't feel familiar at all. It's like, well, that's odd and different and unexpected. It's like, seeing the Xbox logo in front of the like an Xbox Game Studios logo pop up for the Oblivion remake or whatever. It's like, huh, it's kind of weird, like. And yeah, it's because when you think of these games or these products, like, or even the companies that are associated with making these products, you don't think of, like, when I think of Bungie, I mean, now I think about Sony, but I even now, like, it's like when I think of Bungie, I don't really think about Sony at all. I mean, the only reason I think about Sony is because Jesus, like, it just seems like they're nothing but a headache for Sony. But when I think of Bungie, like, I think Destiny and Halo, and neither of those things make me think about PlayStation, honestly. You know. Let me see here. We have Lux. You're saying Nintendo's net worth is 13 billion. They do well for their size. They outsell PlayStation and Microsoft with their own IPs and getting close to an all-time hardware record. Not bad. No, I agree. No, just because I was saying they make a lot less money than Sony and Microsoft, I wasn't trying to make it sound like that's not like a flex thing. It's just more like trying to understand, like, from Sony's perspective, this is probably why they're not trying to do anything that Nintendo's doing, or like follow, they're not going back to true exclusivity or anything like that, because that's how they're viewing it. They're viewing it through the lens of, like, we are the market leader. Like, we make the most money. We shouldn't be following the company that's in third place revenue wise. But what you're saying is absolutely true. Like, these are things that in their own right, I would say, are respectable, and something that if Sony had these things, I wouldn't look down upon them. If Sony was about to, yeah, if the PS5 ends up, well, like, we can talk about the PS4. If the PS4 was going to break the PS2's record, I wouldn't look down upon that. Like, that's crazy. You know, you talk about the size of Nintendo, and it seems like Nintendo kind of punches above their weight a little bit sometimes. I respect that. We have Leo Jimmy with a $20 super chat. Thank you for that, buddy. Let me bring it up here. Leo Jimmy says, MBG money in that scenario, my worry is the quality in the games. Rather than working on one game and one device, now you make a PC, Switch, Xbox version. I think the focus won't be on the game, but it being the same. And that's a fair point. Yeah, I mean, the one undeniable argument you can make in favor of exclusivity, and I hate having these conversations, not with you, Leo Jimmy, but just, I see in a lot of places what these conversations devolve into, and they're not fun. But the one argument that I think does hold weight and actually is valid in, for being pro exclusivity is, yes, you can say that when a developer's making an exclusive game, there is less overall strain in the sense of they only have to worry about optimizing it and getting the most out of it and doing the most with it on a single piece of hardware. We've seen ample evidence that when you are spreading yourself thin across multiple consoles and multiple, God knows how many PC configurations, it's not that it can't be done. It can be done. But that will increase the workload. That will increase the time frame, the dev time frame, and it will likely increase the amount of money needed to make that happen, and the amount of manpower, and it increases everything. It raises everything, and makes it all more expensive, more time consuming, but it can be done. And so there is this kind of added benefit of, like, Ghost of Yotei, for example. That game was made, I would say, pretty efficiently overall. Ghost of Tsushima came out in July of 2020, and by the time Ghost of Yotei comes out, it'll be just a little over 5 years, and it looks phenomenal. It looks like, and from the sounds of it, sounds like they really added a lot to it. And it's like, when that game drops, the hope is it's going to be well optimized. It's going to, really do the most it possibly can for the PS5 and the PS5 Pro. And it's not to say that it won't make its way somewhere else in the future. It will, but it does give me more confidence that I can expect something that right off the bat is likely going to be not only very high quality but very well optimized and have minimal issues. Now that I'm saying this is probably going to come out a broken mess or something, but it gives me a lot of confidence because it's like, well, I know that they only had to worry about making this game for one piece of hardware, and they probably, they were that 5 year dev time. Like, it should be more than enough time to really not only squeeze everything you can out of that hardware, but make sure it comes in very smooth, running very well, minimal bugs, minimal issues. This is exactly why GTA 6 is not going to launch. Well, I don't know if it's the exact reason, but chances are GTA 6 is probably not going to launch day one on PC because of this reason, where they're like, we're going to need more time. If they wanted to do a simultaneous PC release, I guarantee you the game probably would be delayed to holiday 2026 or even 2027. That this is a reality where, like, it will take more time because PC in particular, I mean, you have to take into account so many possible configurations, and it takes time. So there is that factor, Leo Jimmy, that shouldn't be undermined and overlooked. But at the same time, when you pit that against the prospect of growth, you see what I'm saying? Where my question, Leo Jimmy, would be to Sony, and it would be, how much does that matter to you? What we just described, how much does that matter to Sony? Well, seemingly a little bit. Sony was wise enough to buy a PC support team and relegate that extra work and that extra dev time and that extra resource that would be needed for PC ports. They relegated that to Nixxes and they let them deal with it most of the time. We've seen instances where Naughty Dog tries to take on the load themselves, and it was not good, the initial result. And I think stuff like that does seem to, again, it proves that, yeah, these teams would need to learn a lot more in terms of multi-platform development. In fact, this is actually one of the problems that we talk about with Microsoft, where one of the things that we've been warned about is that there will still be games that are not going to come to PlayStation immediately or maybe even ever. And the reason for that is because these teams were not ready for it. Like, they can't just, it's not a flip of a switch. They can't just snap their fingers and suddenly there's a PS5 version. They have to put some time into it. They have to optimize it. This is why Indiana Jones there was like a 6 or 7 month gap or whatever. I highly, highly doubt it was because the game was just sitting there ready to go and they're like, let's just time it. It's probably because, like, we need that time to get it up and running on the PS5, optimize for it, iron everything out. And I still encountered a weird bug in that game on my stream. But yeah, man, I guess I'm trying to just position myself to where I don't want to be caught off guard or even remotely surprised if in the next 5 years, like by 2028, 2029, 2030, by the time we get there, it's like Sony is like, yeah, we're, exclusivity really isn't much of a priority anymore. We're getting much more comfortable with being multi-platform, and we're still trying to sell consoles, but we're also finding other ways to grow the PlayStation brand. Like saying Sony's third party now, like, I don't feel comfortable saying that because that's not true yet. It's like a 50-50 thing. Like, sometimes Sony's a little bit third party, but mostly not. I'm just saying I'm not going to, because I feel like I see people, they're kind of holding on to what they have left. They're desperately holding on to it, and they need to believe that they're not going to lose it. But I'm like, what are you losing, though? You know what I mean? Full third party for me would be, um, frankly, like the way Phil Spencer put it was like no red lines. Like there are no limits. We're not like nothing is off limits, which doesn't mean there won't be anything that doesn't move. It just means that they'll pick it up and they'll put it wherever they want to if they feel like if they have to, whether that be day one or later on. And I think the truth is for Sony, there's no red line for PC. Like, I'm just trying to put it out there. I see a lot of fanboy takes on both sides, PlayStation and Xbox. And it's like people always bring up the Phil Spencer no red line thing. And it's like, well, we're going to talk about the fact that there's seemingly no red line for PC for Sony, where like they're going to eventually put all their games on PC that they feel are worth the squeeze. Like, I remember when the rumor came out that GT7 and Demon Souls were not coming to PC. And it seemed some people were thinking that this is because they're walking back. They're moving away from the PC. It's like, no, we found out Demon Souls, there were engine problems and it just wasn't worth it. Like, at least not right now. And they didn't want to, they thought that there were other games that should be more of a priority. And GT7, the only reason was because apparently that's something that Polyphony Digital wants to do, and they had already moved on to GT8. So just like, we're just gonna, leave it be. That now, that's what we heard. We never got official confirmation from Sony, but it's just like, look at all the other games that Sony brought to PC. Like, do you really think that there's something there? It's like, no, we don't touch that, bro. They brought Uncharted, they brought God of War, they brought The Last of Us. Like they brought Spider-Man. Like they were not holding anything back purposely. So I just think you say no Astrobot. Yeah, but did you know that Nicholas Doucette, I think that's how you say his name, the director of Astrobot, he was asked this directly. He was asked, like, would you like to see Astrobot on PC, or are you bringing Astrobot to PC? And he said, well, right now there's nothing in the works, but he said he would love to hear from PC players. So if you want to know if the people who made Astrobot would like to release their game on PC, the answer is yes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the one who said, that's literally from the director's mouth. And Jerry Gamer comes in and drops another membership gift, bringing us up to 17. Jerry Gamer says, guys, we got to do it. We're too close to give up now. We got to make it to the 25 mark. He believes in you guys. Thank you for that, Jerry Gamer. I do appreciate it. And you have a super chat saying, do you know The Last of Us 2 Reddit? People getting crazy. Check. Let's see. More and more people finally getting The Last of Us stupidity with an article that says The Last of Us will show torture on screen, but not a woman with bad hair. Dina's perfect curtain bangs and softly tussled waves don't exactly match her apocalyptic backdrop. Do you know what's funny about that? Somebody might say, well, who cares? Dude, Mrs. MBG mentioned this to me, when, like literally, and she likes the show, but she mentioned it. She was like, why is their hair so nice all the time? Like that's not even remotely realistic. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I didn't even think about it, but I'm like, yeah, we'll show torture on screen, but not women with a bad hair day. But I think people are, dude, I just want to say, like, that's such a stupid thing, though, because, like, have you not watched any movie or TV show? The hair's never realistic, bro. Yeah, like, the hair's never realistic. This is another reason why I advocate for being bald. You don't got to worry about it. You don't got to find yourself in these positions. PlayStation Pete with a $5 chat says, if Switch outsells PS2, how does Sony still remain the market share leader? Well, they remain the market leader because they're not reliant on PS2 sales anymore, PlayStation Pete. In terms of, will Sony be able to have that extra flex of like, we still have the best selling console of all time? No, they won't have that anymore. And I'm sure they're going to feel a little bit of a sting there, like, damn you, Nintendo, damn you. But no, Sony, they haven't made money on the PS2 in a very, very, very long time. So in terms of remaining the market leader, they're not going to have to necessarily worry about that, PlayStation Pete. Which is good, I think. Let's see. Okay, hold on. Hold on, though. Hold on now. Hold on. Hold on. Let's go check out this Last of Us 2 subreddit. Jerry Gamer's like, I'm a derail you, bro. Oh my god, look at the I didn't even notice the header till now. Bro, it's Joel's head as a golf ball. I've never been to this subreddit before, so hating this girl, hating the horrible HBO casting team. All right. Well, I can absolutely get behind this. I don't think it's fair to hate on the person at all. It's not her fault, Like, who's going to pass up being cast on an HBO show? You're set for life, the amount of money you're going to make. The blame, I would say, probably does go to the casting. No, there. Oh my. Okay. Holy hell. Oh. Oh my god. Oh, this is horrible, bro. This is what the subreddit is? Jerry Gamer, is this why you sent me here? This is crazy. I'm something of a dad myself. Curse stream now, MBG. Gotta delete. I was expecting, I'll be honest, man, when he told me to go check out the Last of Us 2 subreddit, I was expecting something like people arguing or making certain points or whatever, but it's just like, this is what it's devolved into, man. Okay. Well, let's. Oh man. Oh God. Oh, yo. What the dude? That's horrific. That's bad. That's real bad, bro. How did we get here, bro? How did we get here? That's the worst one. That's the worst one. Let's no. No. No, 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 no. 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 Dude, no. No. Oh my god. Holy shit. These people, everybody in the subreddit trying to one up each other. Did I see Tyrone Magnus video about race swapping Magneto for the next Avengers movie? I did not. I mean, nothing. I don't know, man. I still think this this one's still the worst. I think. I think this, but I feel like this one from Forrest Gump actually like is like more fitting. Oh no. It gets worse. All right. I got it. Okay. I have to ask a question because I am not in the loop here. Is The Last of Us 2 subreddit like, is it, does this subreddit like the game or despise the game? Like inherently? Like, where do they lean? Because it's very clear that they did not like like this section of the show where she says I'm going to be a dad. Both. You're saying they hate it? Mostly hate it? Interesting. Okay. I know it sounds crazy. I've never been on the Last of Us 2 subreddit. You think they're cooking here? I mean, they're getting creative. I'll give them that. It's getting the creative juices flowing. This one might be the best just because of the how the fuck am I going to be a dad? Hold on, let me I need to pop out my chat. Why is this up? All right. Oh, this is brutal, bro. That Picard one looks like it. That looks like me. Lux, I don't know how to feel about that comment. Oh my god, maybe if I shave Oh my god, if I shaved my face and I took my hat off. No. You can't do this to me. You can't do this to me. No. What have you done? You know what's funny? I have one picture of myself that you will never see of my head shaved and my face shaved, and it looks as bad as it basically looks like that. Oh. Oh my god. I'm unsettled. Best casting on the show. That actually, yeah. Now that's some good casting right there. Bro, not only does bro look the part, he's buffer than he needs to be. Jacked. All right, well, we got some positivity here. We got some positivity. Now we know who MBG's dressing up as for the next showcase. Oh, that one just something is really off there. They say sorry for the poor edit. Yeah, I mean, I guess at least you tried, man. Even Dina's face model's a Bella hater. Oh yeah, I forgot. This is the girl that they got to do. Wait, how is she? How is she showing this the show? Oh, oh man. Oh no, not Ray Liotta. No. I was waiting for the Darth Vader one. I'm like, how has there not been a Darth Vader one so far? Hmm. Dude. No. I'm going to be a dad. How about that? How about that? This is too much. Is it like, is this really all this Reddit is now? This is 5 minutes ago. Bro, this is 5 minutes ago. I don't know. Dude, I don't know what this means. Like, this is crazy to me. I do agree. She does not fit the role of Ellie, in my opinion, for The Last of Us Part 2. And that line, I'm going to be a dad, is a little weird. All right. Oh, what? Oh, dude, what the fuck? What is that? What even is that? That's crazy. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else on this Reddit, man. What does this mean? Wait, I don't know if I can play this. I don't think I can play this. Hold on. Yeah, no, I can't play that. Oh God. Oh, no. I can't play any footage. Hopefully I didn't show too much. Yeah. Oh, jeez. You see, like, I feel bad for Bella Ramsey because, like, this didn't. Oh. Like, she's clearly just a fine person, man. You know, like, I just feel bad because it's like she doesn't deserve this necessarily, but, like, I mean, geez, the people who, yeah, I mean, the people who, somebody had to stop this along the way. Somebody had to be like, bro, this just ain't it. She was good. Like, she was good for the first season. But I'll admit, I've watched every episode of The Last of Us HBO season 2, and something's just not clicking, man. Like, and I'll be honest, I'm like over the way she looks. I don't even care how she looks. It's just this doesn't feel like Last of Us 2 Ellie. It feels like almost like a different character. But The Last of Us 2 is providing entertainment. Imagine if she was your child. No, like, that's right. Look, man, I feel bad because it's just like this is a shame. Okay. This is a shame. It's too much. What did y'all not like about part 2? Six. There's a lot of people posting in this subreddit. Oh shit. Okay, yeah, like that looks like Last of Us 2 Ellie. All right. Well, I mean, people are being it's a bit extreme, but all right, that's it. That's it. This is it. Oh no, bro! Oh my god. Okay. Oh my god. Oh no. There's so many more. Shane from The Walking Dead. Joe Rogan. Michael from The Office, dude. No. No. All right. I've seen enough. Jerry Gamer. I don't even know what to say, bro. Other than I've seen enough. Get me out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. Well, I don't really know where to go from here. Oh, God. What does this mean for Naughty Dog and The Last of Us, man? Druckmann did this to her. Sony better deliver on that God of War movie or else. They should change the video game Ellie into the Ellie from the show as DLC. It means they're cooked. Yeah, I don't know, man. Sheesh. Casting needs some rethinking. Kratos is 100% going to be miscast. Well, to be honest, I don't know. That's a tough one. Kratos, you know who would play a perfect older Kratos, but I mean, he's probably too busy. Actually, I think Triple H, dude. He literally looks like older Kratos. Could he act like him? Probably. Maybe. But I don't know how much of an actor Triple H is, though. But he would, I think he'd probably be the perfect. Although I don't know if his physique is still. I don't know. He's older now, so. Oh, was he in Blade Trinity? Why didn't I know that? Have you seen Blade Trinity? He can't act. Okay. He even has the voice. Well, I mean, Kratos is pretty stoic. I feel like I don't think it's necessarily hard to act stoic, is it? Direct donation from Perfect Image, talking about exclusivity. Hold on, let me bring that up. Perfect Image, thank you, buddy. You're saying here when it comes to exclusivity, some people like it. That's why we have 3 different consoles. Someone, everything on it. If not, you put like the skull emoji here. Well, I mean, getting back to the conversation of exclusivity, man. I'm just at a point, dude, where I don't know that I'm for or against it anymore. You know, like I just genuinely feel that way because it's like whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. Like if they want to make games exclusive, whatever, man. Like sure. If they're just like no, we're not doing that anymore because reasons, it's like okay, all right, just make sure the games are still good. And when I play them on my console, they're optimized. Tom Hanks for Kratos. I mean, I grew up with exclusivity though, so there is that part of me where like exclusivity does feel somewhat necessary, but I've just kind of I've given up in the sense that whatever's going to happen is going to happen, man. Like the changes that these corporations and these companies are going to make, um, you know, they're going to do it regardless of how I feel about it. So, Rory McCain, can Mr. B become a casting agent? Hold on, who did Mr. B? Kratos is Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland as Atreus. You don't think it'll ever go away for PlayStation? Some level of exclusivity? We'll see. I mean, there is every chance, dude, that the PS6 could roll out and it's like they have 3 or 4 games at the launch of the PlayStation 6 that are only on PS6. I would be a little bit surprised. But like, yeah, okay. I mean, I'm not opposed to that. I'm gonna buy a PS6 no matter what. But you know, I'm just not. I just don't feel as sure about that this time. Why was Sony promoting Stellar Blade on PC? Well, that's what I mean, man. Like Sony publishes Stellar Blade, so they're hoping to make money from this game on PC. I worry about Naughty Dog though, man. Like that's so bad. I didn't realize people were this frustrated or like if not upset, just disillusioned with the show. Everything about The Last of Us Part 2 feels cursed, man. It does. Like I feel like Sony had such a good thing with The Last of Us 1 in that like it feels like nobody disliked The Last of Us 1, you know? Like everybody loved The Last of Us 1. There were no haters. I think there were some people who maybe just were like indifferent to it, but it didn't have haters. It didn't, and I feel like ever since The Last of Us 2 came out, it just created this massive divide where it's like you either hate it so much that you just, you know, this like it turns into this, or you love it and it's the greatest thing ever made in existence. And how dare anybody question its authority? So yeah, I don't know, man. I'll 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 be curious to see what ends up happening with Intergalactic because I know it's probably not going to happen, but I just don't. I wish there just wasn't going to be drama, you know. Hey dude, I saw you on Point for Gamers video. Thought you should know. They were reacting to your videos. They're big Xbox guys. I've never heard of them. What video? Which one of my videos were they reacting to? Uh, Oh, Jesus. Well, this looks like a dumpster fire of a channel. No offense, Green Ninja. No offense, but Jesus. Like, I'll read some of the titles. Let's see. PlayStation forms a studio to make frog games. Okay, well, I'll give them that one. Yeah, I was making fun of that too. Another PlayStation flop on the way. Media paints Xbox as the villain. PlayStation ponies love Xbox games. Xbox prices are about to skyrocket. Marathon's already a massive flop. Claire Obscure proves Game Pass boosts sales. PlayStation fans are officially fed up. To a degree, maybe. Maybe there's some truth there. Xbox will prioritize creativity over franchise expansion. Xbox has a chokehold on the PlayStation Store. All right, well. All right. Okay. I mean, hey, man, whatever. It is what it is, you know, I guess. Maybe in the future, eventually one day. Kind of like how Abby put Ellie in a chokehold. Ooh, oof. They got their lane, I guess. Yeah. You think I should do collabs? PlayStation versus Xbox channel debates? I mean, I don't know that I'd be good at debating though. I would be too passive. I think that's the problem. I could have maybe conversations and discussions, but I couldn't see myself actually debating because the thing is, like, I'm not interested in trying. I mean, sometimes I get frustrated and I vent whatever a little bit and I get a little rattled, you know, and worked up. But at the end of the day, man, like I don't have any interest in trying to convince anybody of anything. Like, I don't care enough. Like if you think PlayStation is a dumpster fire and garbage and Sony's the worst, it's like, cool, man. More power to you. The only thing that does bother me, and even this, like, I'm getting to a point where it's like I'm just kind of done because there's no point to it, right? Is people making up false narratives, you know? Like, I mean, literally, like, factually incorrect. Yeah, the misinformation. That is what bothers me, and how people weaponize misinformation so egregiously and so aggressively today. But that's where I'm just like, these are not rational people. You know what I mean? PlayStation has radicalized MBG to apathy. I mean, I've become apathetic not because of PlayStation, but just because of, like, honestly, the conversations that have grown from the changes that have occurred, not just with PlayStation, but across the industry, where it's like, bro, I'm not saying things weren't toxic before, but it just feels like everything's toxified now. Like, before, it felt like it was like relegated to certain things where, not saying it maybe deserved it, but it made more sense. And now it's just everywhere for anything. And PSP Reviewer 100 comes in and becomes a channel member. He's been dropping some membership gifts for you guys. But now he's like, you know what? I got to become a member too. And he brings us up to 18. Guys, we are so close. I'm going to keep encouraging you to see if we can hit that 25 mark. We're now sitting at 18.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So we're 7 away. We're 7 away. We'll see if we can make it happen. PSP Reviewer 100, thank you so much for that, buddy. I mean, my mood changes daily. I'm always, I'm in different moods at different times. So there definitely are some times where I feel more inclined to engage with it, but it's like, you talk about kind of like picking a lane or whatever, and it's like I guess I kind of did pick my lane for now. It's not to say I'll stay in it forever, but it's just the lane that I'm in is I have been playing on PlayStation for years now, and looking at part of what I do in this lane is I engage in deep discussion and conversation about not just PlayStation but the gaming industry, and I come across a lot of stuff. I come across so many opinions, so many, everybody has their thoughts on PlayStation or on Sony or on gaming or the PS5 or whatever or Xbox, and it's like sometimes I'm more receptive to them, other times I'm just not. Right now, all I can say is like I'm in the kind of mood where if somebody has a problem with something, I'm going to say, the good news is you don't have to deal with it. That's the beauty of it. Right? Like if somebody it's like if somebody were to complain to me right now about The Last of Us Part 2 HBO, it's like, "Hey, I have really great news for you. You don't have to watch it." That doesn't have to exist in your life. Isn't that good news? There's so many other shows you could watch. That's how I feel right now. Now maybe that'll change, where it's like maybe one day I'll be like, yeah, this show sucks or whatever, and what's Sony thinking? Or like Xbox, people I see a lot of that. Like there are definitely people on my channel where it's like they would love to see me get really aggressive. And like if I could put out videos like shit talking Xbox, highlighting fanboy tweets and videos and deconstructing them and laughing at them. I could definitely. I mean, it's a thing that could be done on my channel, and there's definitely an audience for that. But I don't know, man. I just don't care. It's like who gives a shit about these people and what they had? Who cares? I'm just. I don't feel like if there's somebody. When I see somebody that's like, Xbox is still great, bro, it's like, that's good for you, man. But I don't come across people like that. I come across people that are like, Xbox is, they're going to be taken over. Or, Game Pass is better than anything PlayStation has to offer. And it's like, even then, it's like, I disagree. And even if there was truth to it, I don't care. Like I'm thinking about Death Stranding 2 right now, bro. Why are you talking to me about, you know what I mean? That's all. Do chat calls? Oh my god. Could you imagine what that would be like? RGT, Spawn Wave, Reforge, great conversationalists. Yeah. I mean, I will say at this point in my life, I've become, Josh Z earlier said he found out he was like somewhat nihilistic. And I think apathy, it goes along with nihilism, where like I've noticed as I've gotten older, I've become more like much more apathetic. Yeah. Where it's just, I find it harder to care about things because I don't know, I've walked so many different paths where it's like I know what it's like to deeply care about something and to fight for something. I know what it's like to win. I know what it's like to lose. I know what it's like to just be in the middle. And it's like at the end of the day, it's all the same, man. Like I don't mean to be so blah, but it's like it's true. At the end of the day, it's all the same. The fight's gonna end sometime. You're gonna lose fight yourself. And when you do, you're gonna realize, man, I'm just a little. It's not even that you're tired. It's just I want to just. There's other things that are probably better than this. There's so much more to it all. And I don't know. I look back at like the aggression I had. Not, I don't even want to call it aggression because it wasn't. I made it sound like it was like I was so serious. You think I'm depressed? I might be depressed. Yeah, I don't know. Right today, I just feel tired. I'll be honest. I did a lot yesterday. I was on another level yesterday with the amount of shows in. So today I just feel tired. It could be that. I'm just tired. Just bring the white flag. There you go. But yeah, I don't know, man. It's just kind of like what it sometimes feels like. It's like if I'm walking down the street and I see two grown adults yelling at each other, and it looks like they're about to start swinging at each other. First off, I got to ask myself if I even need to do, like, should I even intervene? Do I need to? Now, let's just say it's like right out front of my house, right? So it's like, well, it's close enough in proximity to you that you probably should. You probably should intervene. And, I'm going to approach it. I'm seeing two people. It's like, maybe, maybe there is an explanation for this. I don't really care. It's just all I'm going to do is suggest I'm pretty sure screaming at each other and getting ready to swing at each other, I don't think that's going to help. Somebody's going to get charged with assault. Somebody's going to get injured. And you guys are like, whatever you're arguing about, that it's, the problem is not going to be solved. All I would really do is maybe suggest, hey, calm down. Like, I'm that guy. Like, just calm down. Chill out. Like, just walk away or talk about it. Talk through it. And if those two people are unwilling to listen and they're like, no, we want to start swinging, I'm like, okay, I'm out. Like, I'm going on my way. Somebody else can take care of this, or you guys can figure it out. That's how I am these days. And that's, when I like engage on the internet and I see that it's like when people want to argue and fight, it's like, and debate. Like, debating's fine because debating, it's you're exchanging words and you're exchanging points and trying to persuade, and that's fine. There's no such thing as society. I mean, dude, that's funny. Like, I don't consider myself like an integral part of society. Like, I am part of it, but at the same time, it's like, bro, I don't interact if I don't have to. I don't. And I'm content with that, Like, I'm just like, I'm cool. I'm chill. But have you ever had toxic encounters in real life? Yes. Oh yeah. This is partly why I'm probably like this 0 point, because it's just like, I don't think I've had the easiest life. Like, sometimes I have to actually remind myself. Yeah, boss I just sit here and boss drives me insane. I have to remind myself sometimes, like, how different my life used to be and how, like, dude, you've made some vast strides of improvement in your life. It can be when it happens over a really long time. When it happens over a really long time, it's like less noticeable and less immediate, and so you can kind of just sink into it without even realizing it. Not in a bad way, but like sometimes you need to kind of remind yourself of, like, think about where you were 8 years ago, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and it becomes much more clear. Like, holy shit, wow. Titus, you're saying I get it, but I got it at 45, not 30. Yeah, maybe I'm a little bit young for it, but I've been telling you for a while, Titus, that, like, dude, I feel old. I do not feel 30. Well, I'm 31. I don't feel 31 at all. But I look back and I'm like, yeah, I had a not a completely hard, like, I don't want to like make it sound like I had the hardest life. Certainly not. But it's just when it comes to dealing with toxic people, toxicity in general, people who frankly can whittle you down and turn, bring the worst out of you. Unfortunately, I've had enough for one lifetime. Like, that's honestly how I feel. And it has whittled me down where it's like, dude, I just don't have it in me anymore to be able to tolerate that shit. Like, it has made me like that level of apathetic where it's just like, I don't give a shit. Like, whatever your problem is, whatever, like, take it somewhere else. I don't have it in me. You know what I mean? And that's like, it's being reflected in my gaming life as well, where like sometimes I get worked up about certain things, and people are like, "Bro, why are you crying so much? Like, why are you this worked up? Like, it's just video games." And then I kind of like realize, actually, yeah, I don't know. I don't know why. I guess it's because it's like one of the only things that I still like really deeply care about. But it's like, yeah, at the same time, like, dude, you could just try enjoying things. You're allowed to do that now. You know, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be so intense and volatile all the time. It's like, oh yeah, and it's like it's a bit of a reflection of like, oh wait, that's right, that's where I come from. It's always like, it's like embedded in me, you know, to a degree. It's still there, but it's really, you know, it's really the light, I guess you could say. That's such a terrible way to phrase it. The light is dim. The flame is a bit, you know, it's not. It's smaller. It's more tame. There's nothing better in life than reaching for that type of zen. It is nice, yeah. But you know, I'm still human. You know, obviously, I still think deeply, still feel deeply. Um, but one of the things that I will say has changed, and this is part of the change, where it's like you look back 10 years, it's like, dude, 10 years ago, I was not on the internet nearly as much. I was much more ignorant to a lot of realities and a lot of things in the world. And one of the things that's changed in recent years for me is, you know, being more involved on the internet and being on places like Twitter. And I've I realized that I'm exposed, and I'm doing this willingly. I'm exposed to so much more, like so much more than I ever was, and it does dull me out a bit. It dulls me out because it's just like you see something on the internet and you're like, oh my god, this is like what is wrong with this world? Like everything's wrong, but you just, I don't know. I just kind of like zoom out for just an instant where it's like, bro, you're sitting here on a chair, and I'm not going to disclose where I live, but in this part of the world, halfway across the world or whatever, or like you don't know these people, you don't know the situation, you're not even involved with it, and yet it's like you just read some text. This might not have even been real. It may as well have not have been real because you're not involved. It has nothing to do with you. But yet now it's been, you know, it's kind of latched on to you to convince you that you are somehow part of it, you know? And it's just like, wait a second, I'm not. And so it's all just basically like a one long exercise to make me realize that, wait a second, like this isn't my life. You know what I mean? This isn't relevant to me at all. And I guess that's just the nature of the internet. You know, if I was out there, if I was like outdoors all the time or out there doing something all the time, I probably wouldn't see 99% of this. And any of the problems I would encounter would be my problems. Like literally, like what I'm there physically for real. You know, I'm like in the real world. Now it's actually my problem. So I don't know. It's now I went a bit of really went off the rails there, but all this is to say that like when it comes to the way I run the channel, and you know, part of what I do is giving an opinion. It's like, yeah, I'm sure people who've been following me for the longest time have seen that like I've chilled out a lot over the years, like a lot, you know? And I've also been humbled along the way. That's an important thing too. You know, part of, I think, reaching this point, it's not a bad thing. So some people, it might sound bad. It's part of it is, you know, reaching a level of humility. And sometimes it's painful. You know, sometimes you hit a wall, metaphorically speaking. And you need to, though, because you got to get knocked on your ass a little bit to be like, get some perspective, you know? A little bit of humility goes a long way. This is what therapy feels like? Absolutely. I'm having a therapy session with you. This is supposed to be members lounge content. Well, I probably should save it for the members lounge, but really, I'm having this discussion because it's like when you think about it, when we encounter things like The Last of Us Part 2, and you see what's going on, even with like the HBO series, and you come across all this craziness and you talk about um, the quote unquote console wars or the platform wars or publishing wars or whatever that are prevalent here on the channel. And this stuff really does bleed. What I'm saying kind of bleeds into every facet of what we discuss to some extent. And I always just try to be the person that is trying to encourage people, like, have your opinions. That's good. Have your convictions. Nothing wrong with that. Have your beliefs, have your views on things. But at the end of the day, try to remember that, like, we're talking about a medium, the medium of video games. We're talking about an industry. We're talking about an art, if you want to call it that, something that's supposed to be enjoyed, not to say that you can't have strong feelings on things, but it's just when I look at the landscape in 2025, we're not living in a time where you have one, maybe two options. We're not living in a time where it's like you have maybe at most like 10 games to choose from. It's actually the exact opposite. It's like, dude, there's more than you could even, consume in multiple lifetimes. There's more places to play. There's more ways to engage with, an unfathomable amount of games. And I just feel like more people sometimes, like, not, this space would be a lot more enjoyable if people approach the conversations that they're trying to have with that type of mentality. That, like, oh wait, yeah, maybe this isn't a bad thing. Or maybe it's not nearly as bad as I'm making it seem. But this is why people do need to play The Last of Us Part 2. Yeah, that's right. I said it. Go play The Last of Us Part 2 right now. And when you get to the end of that game, take in that lesson. Because more people need to get there quicker. We need to get there quicker, guys. All right? Next time you're, and I'll take this advice too, next time you're aggressively typing a response to somebody on Twitter or on YouTube, just imagine for a moment, you're Ellie in that moment, trying to drown Abby. You know what has to be done. And I will say, one of the most interesting things to extract from The Last of Us Part 2 has to be that conversation right there. Play Sekiro. That's what I need. Gaming fun is the goal here, not to break each other down and have a good time. Well, what's interesting is, like, the past, not yesterday's stream, but the stream prior to that, it was a really, negative stream towards specifically PlayStation. And one of the most difficult things that I've been trying to navigate on the channel here, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this too, is that, like, there are people who come to my channel or who are part of my channel where they want things to be one way all the time. And I get that, to a degree where it's like, yeah, it's comfortable. But I've especially, like, over the last year and a half, 2 years, I realized that, like, I can't force that. There are other people that maybe can do that. I can't do that because it's just not in my nature, man. Sean Mitchell with a super chat says, Kojima getting photos with Robert Pattinson at the Cannes, I think that's how you say that, Cannes Festival. Is that how you say it? Would love Kojima to put him in Fizzin as a character. Oh, I'm sure Kojima would love that too, Sean. I did see that picture. Yeah. So, Robert, you want to, dude, I saw somebody say, like, what is Gustav doing with Kojima? Like, that's a good one. 187, you're saying the gatekeeping has to die. Gaming evolves. No such thing as loyalty as a gamer. Systems and gaming changes every few decades. Yeah, I mean, see, that's a tough one. That's a tough one because, like, the argument of should there be gatekeeping? Oh my god. Well, stream's over, guys. Should there be gatekeeping or should gatekeeping go away? And this is a tough one because gatekeeping is one of those things where it's almost like a political topic. Like, realistically, there's like probably a lot to extract from it, and it's a bit nuanced, it's a bit nuanced, but also people are just going to immediately jump to one extreme or the other where no, gatekeeping is bad. And if you're pro gatekeeping, you're a horrible person, or no, we need things to be gate kept because that's what makes things great. And I think there's an argument to be made for both. There is a level of like being the question of should you let literally everybody in? Everybody. No matter what. Even like somebody that could be the worst person ever, like, do you just let them in? I mean, you're going to probably get arguments from people that are like, I don't know. Maybe it's taking things too far. It gets into the whole conversation of how tolerant should a society be. Like the Eric Andre meme. Exactly, Rashdam. How tolerant should a society really be? Because if you have, if there's an infinite amount of tolerance, then that will get taken advantage of. It will get exploited, and it will cause erosion. Society needs tolerance for itself. Well, in regards to gaming, this is where I feel like we are in a spot where both, like, you can have both. It doesn't, I'm just a believer at this point that things have grown big enough within the gaming industry itself has grown big enough and diverse enough that, and there's so many people involved that you can have both. You can have areas of the gaming industry that are the opposite, where yes, there is no gatekeeping whatsoever. Anybody and everybody is welcome. There's no gate whatsoever. There are no gates. And you can also have other areas where there's absolutely gatekeeping. And there are communities that take that very seriously. And I think that this is fine. I think that this is fine to have both because it's like, why not? Why does it have to be one way? Why, like, not everything needs to be gate kept and not everything needs gates. I think that's fine. And I just think that this is where we are. Like, I don't know, man. I'm finding that people, I look at the reasons that people give for arguing and for fighting and for debating even. And it's like, is that really a good reason? Maybe I'm being too open-minded. Maybe I'm just in that kind of mood today. I'm just way too open-minded. Jay Shocker, you think gatekeeping is a good thing? Well, see, that's the thing. Is like, there are good qualities to it at times. An invisible hand, like me snuffing out the voices that disturb the harmony. Gaming Survivor, are you pro gatekeeping, bro? Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, if there's not enough gatekeeping, then what happens to competition? If everybody gets along too well, what happens to competition? There needs to be a balance. That's why true communism could never work. True communism basically, it paints a utopia, a perfect, you have 100 people and 100 people work together in harmony, in unison, and everything's great. You're going to tell me not one of those people are going to become corrupt and ruin it for everybody? If that's what you think, then you clearly don't know humanity. That's basically why, like, I understand, like, this is why, bro. It's like in the Matrix. Why does Agent Smith exist? He exists because Neo exists. What happens when Neo doesn't exist? Agent Smith doesn't exist because there's got to be yin and yang and Wu Wei, bro. See what you guys did? I hope you're happy. It's all those Bella Ramsey memes. Broke my brain. I'm curious, will Sony try to block Xbox users from accessing PlayStation games from Steam on the new console? No. No, they won't. I've settled on that. They're not going to do that. And if you want the proof of that, Hiroki Totoki just told you when he said we're focused on monthly active users, MAUs. Somebody who buys an Xbox and boots up a PlayStation game, that's technically that's a monthly active user, right? Or wait, hold on. Maybe not. If they can bypass, if they don't have to sign into a PSN account, then maybe that wouldn't count. So what Sony could do is maybe get stricter and make it so that, you have to log into a PSN account or make one even for single player games. They could do that. Let me see here. Ixtasis can confirm that Microsoft is doing internal tests to add Steam to the Microsoft Store. Well, yeah. Yeah. Microsoft is going to put other storefronts on their store, which makes no sense, but they're doing it anyway for reasons. It's just a Windows box. I mean, basically. Yeah. You don't think they can anyway? Well, I don't know, man. Maybe I'll feel different tomorrow or the next day when we have other conversations, but I just don't. I'm just over the idea of like celebrating certain things in gaming, because I realize that whatever you're celebrating could change. Like the rug could be pulled out from under you at any moment. And that's happened numerous times. So, just I guess what I'm saying, when I'm referring to celebrating, I guess I'm really referring to like people kind of being like, wow, it says we have 100. I keep doing that. We do not have 182 members. God dang it. This is probably why nobody's donating. They're like, bro, you got 182 members. You're good. Wouldn't that further hurt their own bottom dollar? Are you talking about Sony or Mike? I'm assuming you're talking about Microsoft allowing Steam, like bringing Steam onto their own storefront, onto the Microsoft store. Yeah. Well, because think of it like this. If somebody was on Xbox, Microsoft sells you a piece of hardware, the next gen Xbox, they make almost no money on it. They're not really going to make money on the hardware. They choose to buy a third-party game from, let's just say EA or Capcom or whatever, through Steam on that Xbox. Microsoft gets no money. So there has to be a bigger picture play here. Something that, because like, that's the reality of it, is they make no money. Or somebody buys that Xbox, they buy an Xbox published game on Steam on that Xbox. Microsoft still only gets 30%. So Microsoft's getting something, but they're getting less than they would have if they didn't have Steam on that storefront or on that Xbox. So it's all about the MAUs, I guess. Yeah. The age of the MAU is upon us. Monthly active users, as my voice cracks. Monthly active users. We don't know the split yet. Well, I mean, I think it's safe to assume that if Steam does make its way to Xbox, there's not going to be a change in the split. Like, what I mean is, Steam doesn't have to give Microsoft anything. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have any leverage. So if Microsoft was like, okay, we want like a 5%, we want 5% of the, of every transaction. Like, Steam's just going to say, no, we don't need to be on your box. It's going to work dude, it's a PC. Like, listen, guys, it's so blatantly obvious that the next Xbox is literally just a PC. And I'm not saying that to be like, LOL, and that sucks, and Xbox sucks. No, I'm just saying that's what it is. That's what it will be. It will be a PC that you hook up in your living room. And it's a PC that will ship with a controller. That's what it is. That's all it is. And, Steam and Nintendo are the only things Microsoft can't buy, but that's a big advantage. Yeah, apparently Steam is making a console too. What if Steam offers a percentage because they do get more growth no matter how small it'll be on the next Xbox? It's still more. Well, let me ask you, does Microsoft get a percentage of Steam now through Windows? Because if I understand correctly, they do not. Hold on. Let me see. They will put advertisements in every game, and Microsoft will take a cut. Well, I actually don't. Let me. So it says Steam is its own store. It doesn't use any of Apple or Microsoft services to provide you with the games you buy through it. Valve does the payment processing. Why doesn't it pay? The business model of PCs is that you pay once to buy the hardware and their operating system, and you're then free to install and run any software they want. That's the business model the PC industry operates under, or has operated under, for 50 years. It's what sets PCs apart from game consoles, which were walled gardens from the start. Suddenly changing the system and turning Windows into a walled garden would mean that, well, they're not doing that. There is absolutely no legal requirement to pay someone just because your app runs on their OS. That would be like saying Exxon needs to pay Ford every time you put gas in your car. The consumer has paid for the operating system, and the consumer pays for the app. So there you go. Like, that settles it. That tells you exactly what this is about. Windows. That's exactly what this is about. Yeah, dude. It's about Microsoft's operating system, where the Xbox is now just going to be a PC with, I mean, it seems to me like it's going to run basically full Windows, or something that looks much, much closer to full Windows. And I think Microsoft's going to be fine with that. Because it's just, I think Microsoft has their own storefront, but I just think they don't give a shit about it, dude. Like, Microsoft has not done anything, I think, and that's true. Yeah, Xbox already runs on a version of Windows, but I think this is just going to kind of bring down that barrier of, like, you could call it a PC. In fact, that's exactly what Xbox is already doing. Xbox PC. They're already doing it. It's an Xbox personal computer. Well, what does that mean? It just means it's a personal computer that's just got the Xbox logo on it, and it ships with a controller. You see what I'm saying? Like, that is different from what the Xbox console was, even if it was running a different version of Windows. I could be wrong, but my big question for Microsoft ultimately is, and no, Titus, I never did try that. My big question for Microsoft is, do you care about your own storefront anymore? Because everything they're doing tells you they do not. It doesn't mean they're going to shut it down. It just means that Microsoft seems to be okay if their storefront is at the bottom of your list in terms of where do you want to buy your stuff from, you know? Yeah, and that's it. And I feel like if you were to ask, well, why would they not care about their storefront anymore? And it's because, yeah, people aren't really, they don't have as many customers. People are not buying games on the Xbox storefront. There was a report that came out. I didn't cover it, but like certain developers are now questioning if they should even make Xbox versions of games. And I don't think they're going to have to worry about that because it seems like what Microsoft's going to attempt to do with the next version of the Xbox PC, is just get PC versions of games. That seems to be what they're going to do. It's a very, very strange situation that if I'm trying to understand like the end game here and like what Microsoft's trying to achieve, I think they're willing to give up and sacrifice having control of something that's considered vital to be successful in this space, that being the storefront, something that's, let's face it, not easy to achieve. Like, this is where when you look at Valve, when you look at PlayStation, what's their most valuable asset? It's the storefront. It's their storefront, man, because the storefront is like the greatest generator of passive income. So if like anything you try to do yourself fails, you don't have to worry because you're just getting passive income that'll always, if like in a way, it's like when we talk about these live service games and how live service games essentially generate what turns into passive income through people just buying microtransactions. It's like that, but just on a grander scale, ultimately. Instead of microtransactions, the games themselves are basically that, Instead of people buying skins for $20 a pop, they're buying games for $40, $50, $60, $70 a pop. And it's all about the rips, man. And I think Microsoft is just like, you know what? We're giving up that part of it, you know? We're giving up on it because it's just not working for us. And so, yeah, all right, I have a question. When we talk about Steam being available on the next Xbox PC, right? We talk about that. And then maybe by 2027, suddenly, if you buy this new Xbox PC, you can play Helldivers 2. You can play God of War and God of War Ragnarok. You can play The Last of Us. You can play Ghost of Tsushima. You can play any game that Sony has put on Steam. And Sony, of course, they could maybe pull their games from Steam, but that's gonna be a rough one. Is it possible that Microsoft is trying to entice Sony to bring the PlayStation Store to Xbox? I know that's out there, but think about it. Like, Sony's options might be the following. You ready? You can either do nothing, and anybody who buys our Xbox and buys a PlayStation game on Xbox, you're only going to get 30%. Just like you would on PC. You could pull your games from Steam, which would mean you can no longer ship games on Steam because you don't want them on Xbox, and you lose a revenue source. Very, very, very unlikely Sony's going to do that. The third option is you could just bring your store here, and so anybody who wants to buy your games on this box, you get 70%. You get a 70% rip, and you don't have to settle for that 30. I mean, it sounds crazy, and it sounds like something Sony would never do, but when we talk about Steam being available on the next Xbox branded device, and you consider that there's a lot of PlayStation games now on Steam, that changes everything. That will force Sony to have to make a decision. But you can already play those games now on PC. I could see Game Pass go to Sony, get a % of the cut. Steam makes sense because it's not available on a console. But apparently it's going to be, Lux. Apparently, Steam, there is going to be a Steam console coming out soon. A dedicated, console unit. I don't know. I don't think Sony would be willing to do that just because it's like, I mean, let me ask you, what happens? What does the conversation look like? What does the conversation look like if it's announced that the PlayStation Store will be available on the next Xbox PC? Because, well, let me ask you this. If Sony was even remotely considering doing something like that, what's stopping Sony from bringing the PlayStation storefront to PC? Steam. So, and I say Steam is stopping them because who's going to choose the PlayStation Store on a PC over Steam? So Sony, this is where it's interesting to see the position that Sony's in, because it's like, well, wouldn't that same thing still apply? Wouldn't that exact same logic still apply if Sony was willing to put the PlayStation Store on the next Xbox PC? And hence, this is where Sony is, I think the next real competition, in all honesty. Like, if we're talking about what makes Sony money, their bread and butter, like the most valuable thing PlayStation has as a brand, I think we're about to see storefront wars more than anything. Not even publishing wars, storefront wars. Because, if you think about it, it would make more sense for Sony to even consider putting their storefront on PC. Like, hey, there's a billion people on PC. That's way more than PlayStation consoles. Now, not all billion of those people are gamers, but what if we were able to get a PlayStation Store icon on PC where you install it, and basically if I boot it up, my PC is then turned into basically a PlayStation. Sounds great on paper. We've already seen Microsoft try to do this, and Microsoft freaking owns Windows, and it doesn't matter because it's like, yeah, but Steam. So here's the real question. There are more questions. There are questions on top of questions. Does Sony try to compete with Steam? I'm going to say probably not, because that's a stupid thing to try to do. You're not going to get a Steam player to be like, you know what, actually, I want to go to the PlayStation Store instead. Not going to happen. Steam players are entrenched just as much as PlayStation players are. So, with that logic in mind, would there be any point to Sony moving their storefront? So actually, let me walk this all back, because maybe I have it all wrong. There is no storefront war. A storefront war would imply that you're going to convince people to leave one storefront to go for another. Leave one library for another. Maybe I have it all wrong. That's not going to happen. Lux, you're saying Sony makes money from Steam on Xbox. Microsoft makes 0. Yeah, what the fuck is up with that? That's another good point. Like, yeah, I don't understand. maybe, I mean, maybe I'm overthinking it once again, and it truly does just boil down to it's not about the storefronts anymore, man. It's about the live service games. Because think about it this way, a successful live service game is a storefront. Fortnite is probably the most valuable storefront out there, digital storefront, you know, if you think about it. And I guess this was just a really long, yeah, dude. You know, God damn it, all roads lead to live service. Shit. Mr. B's like, bingo. Yep. Yeah, there it is. It's not publishing. It's not publishing wars. It's not storefront wars. It's not console wars. It's live service wars. That's what it is. That's actually, like, in all seriousness, that's actually what it is. And I think what Sony's biggest fear, I don't think, is people being able to buy their games via Steam on an Xbox that probably most people aren't going to buy. I think Sony's biggest fear is that Xbox is going to have, not just Xbox, but all these publishers are going to have super successful live service games with these insane microtransaction storefronts, where the storefronts for these games grow actually bigger than Sony's own storefront, and they're going to have no choice but to settle for 30% every time. And don't get me wrong, 30% is still great. 30% for doing absolutely nothing is still great. Sony's basically created this barrier where, hey, I don't care how successful your storefront is, I get 30% of everything. That's still pretty great, considering you have nothing to do with that game other than just letting them put it on your platform. But you can kind of see where it's like, at the end of the day, if that live service game or multiple live service games that you don't own become that successful, which we are watching right now with games like Call of Duty, GTA Online, Fortnite, you know, Roblox, Sony, I think, is just, you know, they probably look at this as like, we have to. This is why it's so hard for me to freak out on them and be like, you can't chase live service, because it's like that's not realistic in 2025. Like you can't be a video game publisher in the year 2025 and not, like, I mean, a AAA video game publisher and not try to do something in live service. Doesn't mean it'll work. Doesn't mean you won't lose money, but it's just, you can't do that. You can't. Who's doing that? I'm saying, like, is there any AAA publisher that's not doing something in live service? Maybe Konami, actually. Well, no, Konami, don't they have they have something that they put out frequently, don't they? CD Projekt Red. Well, even CD Projekt Red is, if I'm not mistaken, they're working on a multiplayer game, right? I could have sworn that they announced they have a multiplayer game they're going to be working on. So I'm just, you know, I just don't think. I mean, I mentioned Konami, but even Konami, when talking about reviving Metal Gear and doing remakes, even they mentioned Metal Gear Online. Like, that's something they're thinking about. And I'm like, yeah, because realistically, I think every AAA publisher's like kind of come to the conclusion that they got to have a live, even like Valve. Valve has successful live service games, you know, on top of their storefront. Lux, you're saying Valve makes like $80 million a month from CS:GO crates. See, there you go. That's what I mean. Is it's just Sony. I think, unfortunately, I the biggest mistake that I think Sony made is that they were too late and they panicked, and I think that was the problem. I think Sony could genuinely make some good and successful live service games that all PlayStation players, I think, could enjoy to an extent. Truthfully, even the people who are like, I'm not interested, there could be like non-offensive games, you know? Because the reality is a lot of PlayStation's fan base does like multiplayer. That's why they were there for Killzone. That's why they were there for Resistance and SOCOM and MAG and Twisted Metal and Warhawk and all these games. It's not like it's something brand new and unheard of. It's just that Sony, I think, went the entire PS4 generation saying, we don't need to do that. And by the time they entered the PS5 generation, they realized, oh my God, we really needed to do that. And they freaked out and they're like, well, we got to go crazy. We got to go big as we can to ensure success. And I think that's where they fucked up. Because it's like, you're not wrong that you need live service. You're not wrong for wanting to do live service. Where you're wrong is your approach. Your approach is completely ass backwards and upside down. And as we see. And it's painful to watch, man. It is painful to watch Sony go through this because it's just like, It really feels like you're like this type of calamity that's occurring with Sony's live service endeavors was so easily avoidable by just not panicking and trying to do everything at once. Like one at a time. Slowly but surely, slow and steady wins the race. Thanks, Jim Ryan. And that was probably Jim Ryan's plan. He's like, listen, if this all goes to hell, I can just retire. What's next after winning the console wars? Trying to win the live service wars. Because that's the thing. Let's take it back to Microsoft now. What is Microsoft's end game? If Microsoft gives up on their own storefront, why? Because they just got the biggest, Call of Duty is one of the biggest storefronts in the industry, bro. Call of Duty is one of the biggest, most lucrative storefronts. It may not be selling you games, but it's selling you something. And let me tell you, that store, if you want to know how valuable that storefront is, Sony freaked out at the thought of losing that storefront on their own storefront. So these live service games, like I said, this is what Microsoft is trading their actual Microsoft storefront in for. I've got to stop saying the term storefront. Microsoft is giving up their own platform for multiple platforms that, are not going to compete. And that's why, at the end of the day, the most heinous lie ever told in front of everybody comes from Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella when he says, let us compete. They want competition. Let us compete. Bro knew. He knew. He's laughing on the inside. He's like, we're not competing. Are you kidding me? We're out. Once we get these games, once we get these publishers, we are out, bro. See you, Sony. Take our 30%. We're good. And Sony will. But basically, Microsoft gave up one storefront to buy another. And the storefronts that they bought, because Call of Duty isn't the only successful live service game, They have other successful live services, but Call of Duty is the biggest one. Like, could you imagine if Sony had a Call of Duty level game? Like, could you imagine imagine what that would look like for PlayStation right now, where not only would they add a couple billion yearly to their 31 billion, but that would be like the majority of it would be pure profit. That's the sick part. Like, that's the gross part, is that it's like, oh yeah, we just added a cool $3 billion this year, and 70% of it is going right into our pockets. Ooh. That's why Sony's so jealous. Not of Microsoft, but of successful live service games. That's why Sony's so utterly desperate to have something massive. That I think Helldivers is partly that for them, but Sony wants bigger than that. Make no mistake, Sony believes they should have a Call of Duty. They should have a GTA Online. They should have something that, a Roblox, whatever. They should have something that's raking in billions, and 70% goes right into their pockets. Because if you think about it, if Sony can achieve that, then they've truly won. Now, that you want to talk about what winning actually, that's Valve is pretty close to that, but Valve does not operate on the scale that PlayStation does. And that's what would make things so different, is if Sony were to achieve that on the scale that they operate at, it would almost be unfair. I'm not going to lie. It's almost like I'm okay if they don't do that, but it would be kind of unfair. Sony does own Helldivers 2, but I don't think Helldivers 2, I'll be honest, man, like, I don't know that they're moving microtransactions in the way that a lot of other successful live service games are. I think players are buying super credits, they are buying the war bonds, but it's not quite the same. Like, I will let you guys know that in the latest Helldivers 2 update, they added weapon camouflage for the first time, like weapon camos and skins. Now, as of right now, they're all free and you can unlock them in game, but is this them trying to open the door of, we want to sell weapon skins? They did that collaboration with Killzone, and everybody was freaking out because they were so expensive. And I'm like, you guys got to be fucking kidding me. Like, why? Like, this, like, every fucking live service game does this, and it was painful to watch that, in the sense that, like, why are people doing this to just the Sony live service game? Where it's like, I'm not trying to defend greed. I'm just saying, how are we going to sit here and look at every single successful live service game, play the FOMO game with timed $20 cosmetics? Every game does this, but Sony finally decides, we're going to do it with this one game one time with something that's actually pretty cool, and we're going to make it sound like, holy shit, you are the villain, bro. Well, that's the thing, Titus. See, this is why I have become apathetic, because you're saying call it out across everything. Bro, like, it's over. I think that's what gets me, is it's like, if I truly believed that punching Sony in the face over this would send a clear message, and like, we're changing this, guys, I would charge forward with that. But it's like, dude, if anything, Sony is like crying in the dirt, because they're like, how come they're so mean? Poor little Sony crying in the dirt, bro. They're like, how come they can do it? How come every other company and every other studio and every other live service can do it, and then we do it one time and we get the shit kicked out of us? And it's like, I don't know, man. I wish I could tell you. I don't get it. I don't know. Because I'm on Call of Duty, and I'm looking at that storefront, and I'm like, this is wild. This is insane. There are so many like $20, $30, $35 skins that are so nonsensical, and it's just like, this is great. Like, this is fun. Like, nobody cares. Like, it's over. Like, and that's just one live service game, bro. It's like that for all of them. So I'm just like, I'm in this boat where I'm not saying Sony should just say fuck it and go crazy, but I'm just saying, like, they did an appropriate themed cosmetic. And I don't know, all of this sucks, to be clear. I know it sounds like I'm defending. I'm not trying to defend. I know how it comes off. It all sucks. I'm just saying this is where we are, and it's not rational to expect any other company that's making a live service game to not do that exact thing, because it has already been established in the games industry that this is okay. I'm not saying it's okay. It's the wider market that has decided this is okay, because if it wasn't, we would have seen what happened with EA and the loot boxes, or not the loot boxes, Star Wars Battlefront. That was like a company being like, okay, we're gonna take this to the next level, and they got rejected. They got shot down. They were made an example of, and everybody knew, okay, you know what? Don't ever do that. Don't ever paywall progression, and don't paywall like characters in a game that should fundamentally just be unlocked as you go. See, what EA didn't know at that time is what you do is you make crazy skins for these Star Wars characters, and you charge $30 a pop, and nobody will care. They didn't realize that. They thought that they had to actually lock the characters behind the paywall. And they found out real quick that that's not how you do this. So, you know, everybody gets shit over live service prices. You just have a victim complex when it comes to Sony, do I? I probably do. I have a victim complex. Insert meme of that like fat guy with the ponytail with the blade saying, "How dare you insult my billion-dollar corporation?" No, I'm like, look, man, it's I'll be honest, like if anything, I just feel kind of sorry for not sorry, but it just felt like if anything, that's kind of unfair to Arrowhead, where it's like, bro, they're clearly trying to make money too. You know, like they agreed to this as well, and they got so shook. They're like, we're probably not doing this again. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like that's wild. And it like that. Yeah, I know, but and that's the irony. It's like, you know what? Fuck them too, because they're rich. You know, fuck them all. I need to sell microtransactions. Damn it! I'm gonna make the MBG game where you just, you know, it's gonna be like you got it dialogue options like cry about Sony live service, you know, say Xbox sucks, go on a philosophical tangent that's not relevant to video games, or give boss treats. There you go. No, but at the end of the day, man, I think we can all agree that you know, gaming has changed. It's not the same anymore. Not saying it's for better or for worse. A lot of people feel as though it's for worse. But no matter what, it has changed. You know, it has changed. And the biggest fundamental change that I can't stop talking about, because the more it becomes involved in the conversation surrounding PlayStation, the more, in my opinion, it becomes clear that, like, yeah, I'm looking beyond PlayStation. I'm looking at the entire industry, and it's like live service games are here. Look at, dude, Remedy. Do you see the game that Remedy's getting ready to release? How is a super chat not a microtransaction? Actually, it is. Thank you for the microtransactions, Stu. That's the definition of a microtransaction. You're right. Oh my God. I've given in to the microtransaction cycle. Stu, you are not allowed to break the fourth wall like that. We had this conversation before. Also, what animal is that in your profile picture? I take it you haven't used the PW customization yet? What is what's PW stand for? Paywall? Microtransaction bound gamer. Oh man. Oh man. I'm gonna have to change that in the title. A red panda. Okay, thank you. Ryan, I apologize. I shouldn't have put this in the title. I covered it in my video today. But basically, Sucker Punch like traveled to Japan and like stayed there for a while and like talked with like natives and stuff. And we're like, we need to make sure we get this shit right. So they really did their due diligence. They're like very serious about it. Mostly bald gamer. It's gonna be that too. But yeah, like FBC Firebreak, it's like no offense to Remedy, and I feel bad because it's like, dude, they're one of the only like independent AAA developers out there. Like even they're like, we got to do something here. You know, I feel bad. I feel bad because it's like, this is how you know like we've reached a point where even Remedy is out here being like, Alan Wake 2 didn't make a profit yet, and we got to make this multiplayer game that's based in the Control universe that looks like, I'm not trying to be mean towards it, but it's just like, this doesn't look very good. And I think it's just sad because it's like, I don't even think they want to make that. I mean, like, I feel like if you know Remedy, it's like, I don't think they want to make that. But they need money to survive. And, making a multiplayer game like that, bet it does better than Concord? Probably. Yeah. And that's the irony of it all. That's why I'm telling you, Sony's cursed. When Remedy can make a better multiplayer, a more successful multiplayer game than Sony, how cursed could you be? You can't get any more cursed than that. Do I think that Moon Studio will get bought out by Microsoft or PlayStation or someone else? I'm not sure. Maybe. Oh, Primary Weapons and Helldivers 2. Okay. No, I haven't used the primary weapon customization yet. Well, it's not that it has to be all bad. I'm not. I know that I'm approach. I almost sound agitated during this conversation, and I don't know. I don't know. This is the problem. See, sometimes I'm telling you, I just don't think I get enough sleep because I had these days. There's like days where I'm like feeling really good, and I'm pretty sure those days it's like, yeah, I actually slept pretty good. And then there are just days where it's like, why am I so agitated for no fucking reason? And it's like, because you're like a cranky baby, bro. Like, you're like a kid that didn't get his nappy nap, Like, you didn't sleep enough. You need sleep. Feeding bosses locked behind the paywall in your game. There you go. Random post online about Microsoft sniffing around Warner Bros. Games again. Mm. Yeah, I have no doubt that Microsoft's going to sniff around somewhere, buying somebody up. Absolutely. They're not done. They're definitely not done. Sony should buy Fortnite and it would be done with. Well, that's like almost the equivalent of saying Sony should buy Valve. Because wait, I think Epic is independent. Yeah, the Epic is a privately owned company. CEO Tim Sweeney owns about half of its shares. And Tencent, oh my god, why didn't I know that? Tencent owns another 40%. Sony does own a stake in Epic Games, actually. Sony owns like a percent or two or something like that. It's like a small percentage. Tim Sweeney owns 40. Tencent owns 40. So mostly Chinese. I don't think Sony could buy them. Like, we don't even know the value. What is Fortnite valued at? 1 year ago, Epic Games is worth $32 billion. Yeah, that's not happening. Holy shit, bro. Oh my god, 32 billion. You know what though? Hold on. No. That cannot be right. You're telling me no. You're telling me Roblox is worth more than Fortnite? Epic is 32 billion. Roblox is 55 billion, dude. What on God's green earth is going on? That is surprising to me. That's crazy, bro. Oh my God. And I thought, yo, Roblox is a fucking monster. That is disturbing. Okay, hold on now. Does this mean Roblox is the most valuable live service game? I need to see this list. live service games 2024 review. No, I'm looking for. All right, well, if Roblox isn't the most valuable, then what would be? That's crazy. I had no. Yeah, Oh, it's a kid's money pit. 4-year-olds be playing Roblox. Yo, I'm about to go. I'm I'm about to go do some investigating on Roblox, and I'm gonna end up getting in a lot of trouble. Like, what are you doing here, bro? You're a 31-year-old man. Why are you playing Roblox? Like, it's for research purposes. Like, That's what they all say, buddy. Like, no, literally. I'm trying to figure something out here. Why those kids have that much money? It's probably their parents' money. Listen, if I'm not mistaken, there are user-generated games on Roblox that people make a living maintaining those games. Like, Roblox is an actual storefront now. Like, it's a platform. Like, Roblox is a platform where you can make a game. You can monetize that game. That's crazy. Holy shit. See, this is why. I'm like, Sony had it. Sony had it with Dreams. Sony could have been the opposite of Roblox. If they streamlined the game, the tool set and the game creation, right? They could have streamlined it, released it on mobile, released it on PC, put it everywhere. You can make your own games, and you can make it a platform. Media Molecule was the one. Media Molecule was like Neo in the live service space for Sony, and they just made him take the blue pill. No way. Minecraft. How much is? Shockingly, Minecraft, I don't think is worth that much, comparatively speaking. Like, Minecraft, I think, is only worth a couple billion. Not that I'm saying that's not a lot of money. It's just an unfathomable amount of money. But, like, compared. Okay. So, Roblox is number one. What other game could make more money than Roblox? Roblox is still not profitable. Roblox is already the biggest game in the world. Why can't it make a profit? This one has me riddled. Roblox, this was 9 months ago, has about 5 times the players of Minecraft and Fortnite during the average day. More than 80 million people, oh my God, log on to the app. But I saw a stat showing that over the past 12 months, it has averaged $138 billion in costs for every $100 in revenue. No, $138 in costs for every 100 in revenue. So it's like what? It's like $38 in the red. I'm sure every app store is taking its rake, but I can't imagine they're spending all that much on marketing. Plus, it looks like they have less than 10,000 employees. Maybe the large amount of players are kids without credit cards. Holy shit, we just figured it out. There you go. MAUs, baby. MAUs. It's true. It's totally true. It's the investors. The investors see the MAUs and they're like, well, who gives a shit if they're kids without money? Maybe they'll get money one day. Maybe they'll who cares? That's an MAU, and that can translate into money eventually. Oh, that's crazy. Roblox is basically the template, man. They're not profitable. They're apparently worth $55 billion. It's a single game company worth $55 billion. They're not profitable. And yet they're a juggernaut. Wow, it really does put in perspective of like no wonder why. Yeah, no wonder why there's so much emphasis put on monthly active users. And I think Netflix was the first one. I know that it's not gaming, but I think Netflix was truly the first one to create this entire model where, if I'm not mistaken, Netflix was not profitable for like years and years and years. And it was all based on, if we just get enough people eventually, it will become very profitable. And it kind of was like, you know, you had to get over that hump. Like, no matter how long it took, you just eventually get over there, and once you do, it's just smooth sailing. Nobody will touch you. I guess maybe the same logic kind of applies to monthly active users, not paying users per se. It's, yeah, loss leading. I guess the same logic applies to these live service games where they don't have subscriptions, but as long as you're offering a storefront, as long as you're giving people the ability to pay for things and incentivizing them over time, get enough players. It's weird, man. It's hard to keep up with this stuff because, I look at what's going, like, I think about what I'm talking about right now, these live service games, Fortnite, Roblox, etc., Helldivers, and I compare that to, you know, I compare that to just what I grew up playing, and it's like, what the hell happened? I mean, I guess it makes sense. It makes sense. I think about my younger self, 8, 9, 10-year-old MBG, sitting alone in my bedroom with my PlayStation 2, booting up games like Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3, GTA Vice City, GTA San Andreas, probably games I shouldn't have been playing at that age, but still booting them up. And in an alternate timeline, like if I was that age today, maybe I'd be playing Roblox on my iPad. I don't know. I don't know, man. Minecraft is still $20. That makes it profitable. The comedy show Silicon Valley is all about this stuff. I've heard about it, yeah. Well, guys, I just realized we're about to hit the 4-hour mark. I don't know how I streamed for 4 hours. I'm going to be honest. I had no idea I was streaming for this long. Listen, we're going to do a last call here. I'm going to rally you guys. It's okay if we don't do it, but we are 7 memberships away from hitting the goal. Boss still didn't get it. Well, he did get a little bit of his treats earlier, but we didn't hit the goal. I need the microtransactions. Guys, I need to get my what do they call them? What are the microtransactions called that you get in Roblox? Is there a name for it? I need to get my I need money for my microtransactions. I'm secretly addicted to these games. So we're gonna need to get from 18 members to 25. Little MBG angry loner stage today. Little MBG would be leading a clan in Roblox. Robux. Yeah, guys, I need my Robux. So we're gonna have to well, I mean, I'll give it another 2 minutes before I wrap it up. We'll hit the 4-hour mark. We'll see if we can do it. Somebody grab their parents' credit card. MBG's trying to fund his Roblox addiction. Oh, jeez. I mean, I'm curious to see what my interaction with GTA Online 2 is going to be, because that's a live service game I'm actually excited for. Probably going to do a lot in GTA Online. The original GTA Online lost me, and I wonder what the second one's going to be doing differently. I need my V-Bucks. There you go. 1 membership equals the increase to stream by 3 minutes. I mean, I could do that, but nobody's dropping the memberships, man. So we'll probably just we'll have to just settle on 18 today, which is cool. I do appreciate it. Starting a new channel crew on GTA 6. Oh, maybe. Yeah, I remember they did that in GTA Online. It was like a big thing. Yeah, we could do that. What should we call it? The MBG Army. I don't know. Muscle Bound Battalion. I don't know. Red Dead Redemption 3. That's going to be a while till we see that, man. Pony Brigade. I like it. Pony Brigade. MBGTA. There you. Oh, that's pretty good. Jay Shocker's like, I will never touch Roblox. MB Gangsters. That might have to be it. We might have to go with that. All right, guys. I think this is going to wrap it up. It is like ungodly hot in this room right now. I don't know if you can tell. I'm like sweating. I'm actually sweating. It's really bad in here. So I need to end the stream. Guys, that's going to wrap it up. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today, for showing support. Anybody who watches later, thank you guys. Really, really appreciate that. Yeah, it's my padded cell. Gets a little warm in here. I want to extend a very big thank you to anybody who dropped support. If you dropped any super chats, direct donations, membership gifts, if you became a member, you guys are the sponsors of the channel. In all seriousness, I can only have these conversations and do this because you make it possible. So thank you again so much. And going to give a shout out to Devil Shooter. He did say that he's busy today, so the timestamps may come later today, maybe not even till tomorrow. Letting you guys know that in advance. But shout out to Devil Shooter for always doing the timestamps. He does a great thing for the channel here in the community. So if you do see him in the comments, give him some thanks. And yeah, that's going to wrap it up. We'll see what this upcoming week brings. And I feel like I'm forgetting something. I don't think I am, though. And go check the video out that I put out earlier. All right, yeah, guys, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We'll see. I may or may not be back streaming tomorrow. Just be on the lookout, having your notifications turned on. And that's it. So, guys, I will catch you in the next one. Until then, take care, everyone.